Live? Yep. I'd like to call to order the November 20th, 2024 Columbia Borough Council Budget Workshop. Could I have a roll call, please? Here. 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 All right. Did anyone want to offer an invocation? All right. If you'd like, please rise for a moment of silence. And Steve, would you like to lead some pledge? Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcement of executive and information sessions. There were none. Are there any additions, deletions, or reorganization of the agenda needed? I'm not aware of anything. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda as published?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Giese, to approve the agenda as published. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, citizen comment, non-agenda items only. The first sign up we have is Sharon Lintner. No, it's not.
Nope. There you go.
Testing.
Nope. Okay, yeah, put that one on the charger.
Good evening. Okay. Sharon Lentner, 500 Chestnut Street. I wondered if you can tell me, will there be a discussion this evening on raising the millage?
Yes.
And may I ask why that was not specifically listed as a line item for discussion this evening?
Because it's an outcrop of the discussion of revenues and taxes and expenditures.
Okay,
I don't know exactly where the discussion is going to lead when at the point that I am making the agenda. If I knew that and put it on the agenda, then it would be, how did you know that the discussion was going to go there? I don't know. This is a workshop.
But tonight, you just said that we will have a discussion on a tax increase, possibly millage increase.
As part of the discussion of the budget, yes.
And I'm just asking why that couldn't have been more explicit, because I think that's a bit deceptive for people. They haven't seen a tax hike since 2018, and they're coming here thinking you're reviewing the budget, which is on the agenda. I just feel it would have been more transparent if you could have put a line item that said there will be a discussion. That's why this meeting was called. I believe, Eric, you had asked for public discussion, public input, because you had a discussion on this at the November 7th meeting. So I just wondered about that. And I also wondered, and I guess I don't need to ask this now, but there's no legal reason that I could think of that you would not be allowed to put that on the agenda as an item for discussion. I mean, you're not saying how much you're raising it?
If I put it on the agenda, it appears that we've already made a decision.
But you did.
No, we did not.
Yes, you did. November 7th.
The decision is not made until official action is taken.
I understand you need a vote, but you said at that November 7th meeting, we're going to raise the millage by 1.
The discussion was we need to see what it looks like. And so I said, okay, so we're going to put it on at 1 to see what it looks like, which is exactly what I did in this budget. I put it at a mill. I put it what it is now what it looks like with a mill increase, a 2 mill increase, and a 3 mill increase.
Yes, I saw that you did that. But you did say that at the November 7th
But
meeting,
as
so.
in the discussion, it was, we want to see what it looks like. So, okay, what are we putting on there to see what it looks like?
Okay. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I just want to make this other comment about that regarding an increase.
Well, can we wait until we get to the agenda?
Oh.
Because this is non-agenda comments.
Well, it appeared to be non-agenda because it wasn't listed that we were going to talk about the tax increase. So if it's an
Budget-
agenda item, then
The
I'll wait.
budget is an agenda item.
The
So
budget is,
everything-
but the tax
everything-
increase.
Yes, everything, that's part of the budget.
I understand that, but
And
why?
expenditures are part of the budget.
The budget has been reviewed in the past with no tax increase. So I'm just saying to you that you know, based on your statements November 7th, that that would be a topic of discussion this evening. I just wondered why, in the interest of transparency, you wouldn't have stated that specifically on the agenda. Not everybody in this town understands how the budget works. They don't know that you're going to talk about a tax increase tonight. Thank you.
All right, Mayor Lutz, Chief Brommer. Oh, come on, man, you got something. Mayor, right? I know. All right, workshop items. The first item we have is to review Fund 01 budget. This is the third look at the general fund, because that's what 01 is. Wanted to give some idea of what I added on here, because I added some columns. We had wanted to know what the budget looked like with different villages, so we were able to get an idea of that. I also added the prior year budget change percentage, so you can see what the change is year over year. Pretty much this weekend, as you can tell from the first time we looked at this, I pretty much went through and slashed. I went line by line. I had 4 different screens going, and I looked at the last 4 years, averaging out what that line was, both revenue and expenditure. Anything that looked really out of whack, I looked closer at it. I've said all along, we need accurate budgeting. And there were some things that I didn't think were based on real numbers. They just seemed to be contrived. Just an example, the amount we had in revenue for the reimbursement for the for crossing guards was not 50% of what the line item, the expense line was, but it should be. Just little things like that. We had a really large rental inspection budget, and we were significantly lower on there. Turns out the year before was when we were still getting caught up on our inspections. We're caught up now. So I lowered that rental inspection to be where we expect it to be. No sense in overinflating anything. Likewise on the expenditures. If there were line items that had money allotted and we have not spent that money for 4 years, obviously we don't need it in there. So it's gone. Trying to make everything as accurate as possible. I also found, while I was doing that, that there was an extra employee counted in an extra property inspector counted in there. So I took that position out. I also, chief, what I did was, when I added the lieutenant in, I took the amount from someone that's already off the step. Do you know what I mean? Like a regular officer. And I added, the amount that I added is I did two new what are they called? Uncertified. I added two of those, but I only added them at 6 months because I figured even if we are lucky enough to get them, it's going to be at least June till they come in anyway. So that was how I did yours. And, you know, I've heard lots of, you know, people say, oh, I heard someone actually tell me, oh, I heard you're defunding the police in your budget. Well, that could not be further from the truth. As you can see, the police budget is not defunded. And not only that, we have not reduced the police staff at all, and we've increased it by 2. I think, I mean, pretty much, I did keep the National Night Out at the 10,000 just because that's still a new line item, and we don't have enough to look back on historically for that. But yeah, and what we had, the other thing I reduced on yours, chief, that life scan, there were like the fees were big and the revenue was big. They didn't match. I lowered them and I think I made them match, but we don't.
We do anticipate the life scan fees reducing in 2025. So I think 5,000 is a good number.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can see with all of what I've done, it reduced the expenses from what they were by over, it was about 600,000 that I was able to pull out. And Steve, can you pull up that document with the graphs? Are you able to pull that up? Because I think that's important. Did everyone see the graphs on that? Yeah, it should be down at the bottom. You can see where our expenditures are and where the money comes from. So,
Very bottom.
yeah, very bottom of the whole packet. There it is. So, which one's that? That's expenses. Go up to the revenues. Okay, so there's our revenues. You can see in the revenues, 76% of our revenue comes from taxes. And that's not just property taxes, that's the earned income tax and all of those various taxes that go into that. And then if you go down to expenses, %76 of our expenses are due to employee costs. That, I mean,
Pay,
So-
healthcare, insurance.
right, that's the salaries, the benefits, all of the costs related to being an employer. So if we talk about, you know, we need to cut, I want to know what we need to cut, because we're talking, we have cut staff over the last like 2 years, we have cut an admin position out. Jake is still down someone, and I didn't even include that one in the budget this time. So he's going with one less person. What else? I think those were the two big ones. Codes is one less, because we never replaced a second code enforcement. I mean, I don't know what else we can do. So, any questions?
If I may, in a general fund, that's not surprising, perhaps.
Oh, no.
In the general fund, you're a service organization, so it shows that employee costs involved in providing those services are the big funder.
Yes.
And we have cut, you can see the other part, we have cut so much out of the other part that, and contracts have a big bearing on employee costs. But that's a fact of life.
Mhm.
But it's understandable that as a service organization, your major costs are going to be employee costs. Someone has to do the work.
Yep, exactly.
But I will argue 76% is too high based on revenue.
That's why I have to increase revenue.
There's no reserves. There's no emergency fund. There's no reserves coming out of this general fund. There's no emergency fund coming out of this general fund. In fact, what reserves we do have left, we're absorbing under the general fund. So, I mean, the chart pretty much is self-explanatory. But I think we're at 76% of current revenue for staff. That's only going to go up. And every year, there's what, eight or nine non-union employees. So all the other union employees have contracts, and at a minimum, it's 3% growth every year.
Aside from police, that's right now is at, well,
Well, I'm
5
saying-
next year and 4 after that.
No, it's four next year. We're going to the third year.
But even just using 3%,
Yeah. One sec. So, yeah, I mean, the insurance costs went up 19.6%. We've actually shrunk the budget. Even though the costs went up for everything, including utilities and everything else, the budget this time is 300,000 less than what it was last year, despite costs going up over 7%. So we've cut a lot. So, yes, can you come to the microphone and state your name for the record, please?
Margaret Schmidt. I was just wondering when the McGinnis property is finalized, what part of the budget, where does that money go?
When the property is sold, it goes into capital fund, because the capital fund is what's being used to fund that project. Per state law, you can't mingle general fund and capital fund. You can't, so the money that is being used for McGinnis is all coming out of capital. It's not coming out of the general fund. That has nothing to do with what we're doing. Yes, Sharon.
To question that, so when we begin to pay back, is it the BIOS loan?
We haven't even closed on the BIOS loan
But
yet.
when that happens, where does the money to pay that back come from? Which fund?
The capital.
It has to come out of capital.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, the capital was in a deficit. So I'm just wondering, how do we replenish that
We
to
are
make sure we have those payments available for the loan? Because that's $5 million loan.
The
right?
money will be there because it will be coming from the sale of the property.
Okay, so if you sell the property, you need a buyer. So if you sell
Okay.
the property.
Yeah, if,
Okay.
but it's not a matter of if, it's when.
Okay, I just wanted to understand that. Thank you.
It's when. Yes, Frank.
Frank Patrick, 1001 Ironville Pike. You kind of changed the way you did things tonight, and I get used to the way you do them. I like some of the things you do, I like some of the things you don't do, but you always give the audience a chance to speak in case they didn't sign the agenda. Well, you didn't do that tonight. No, she didn't. I sit there waiting. She did not do it.
No, you didn't. You did those who were on the list.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to do that.
Well, anyway, apparently, this is your budget. Am I correct? You did the budget.
Borough budget. Yes, I did do the budget,
Yes.
yes.
So, and I appreciate that you've done that, being we don't have a finance manager. That's who would have done it. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, so what qualifies you? I don't know your background. What qualifies you to do this budget?
Well, I've gone through this 4 times now, and we have the spreadsheets that are used have formulas on them. Eric and I are both really good with their numbers. And I mean, I don't know what, technically nothing, Frank. I know how it's been done. I know how to do a budget my own house, and everything's pretty set. It was either someone here step up and do it, or we pay $200 an hour for the accounting firm to do it. And do you know how many hours I've put in?
I imagine.
About 45.
I imagine that.
If you want to pay $10,000 to get this document.
Whatever it takes to get it done right. When it comes to managers or whatever it is, we need to pay the money to get the people. I remember when we hired a borough manager. Oh, wait a minute here. There are $150,000 some out there. What did we get for that $150,000? But anyway, getting back
We
to
didn't
the
pay $150,000 for a manager.
big part.
We didn't pay.
No,
$150,000.
but they're out there. It
Yes,
was
they are.
brought out at the meeting. They're out there.
Mhm.
And, well, anyway, this budget, where yours are at, didn't happen overnight. It goes back to the past years. The 3 issues that I would like you to bring up is the sewer plant, and I'd like to know about it. I'd like to know about the firehouse, and the other was the McGinnis property. They're in the budget. Used people, you all said, yes, we were talked into the contracts. These sweetheart contracts is what I feel they were. But hey, they're costing us money. I heard you bring it out, Heather. I heard you bring it out too, Eric. But you didn't do nothing about it. You asked about it, but you didn't do nothing about it.
Okay, so you want to know the real deal on the firehouse, Frank?
Each one I'd like to know the deal
All
on.
right, well, the firehouse is in the general fund, so I'll give you the skinny on the firehouse, okay? We're trying to get out of that lease, but the way the lease was written, we're really having a hard time getting out of it.
But you had that, the way it was written, when you voted on it. Why did-
No, I did not vote on that contract for the firehouse. That was predated us.
I think we voted for us to sell.
We voted to sell it. We did not realize when we were trying to sell it that the situation we would be in. We're
Okay,
trying to, but we could potentially potentially have to hold on to that for 4 more years.
Unbelievable. And what's it cost this year?
I don't know. I mean,
If we're doing a budget, shouldn't we have some of these numbers?
yeah, we should, Frank, but I didn't look specifically at that. I mean, we can see every month the money it costs us. We know what a market rate lease would be, and it is significantly more than what they are paying in rent. We know that. But they have the option every month to say, we want to continue, and there's nothing we can do about it
For how long?
for up to 10 years. And there's nothing we can do about it.
And you didn't vote on any part of that contract.
No, and we can't sell it as is, because if we sell it, we have to sell it with a subpar lease involved, and no one is going to purchase a property knowing they're gonna lose money on it right off the bat.
Okay, I thought sure you were a part of making that contract up. I'll take that back. How about the sewer plant? Where are we at with that?
That's being held up in litigation.
That's being held up by, Norfolk Southern,
Okay,
because we never had an official at-grade crossing agreement with Norfolk Southern. We need to get that at-grade crossing agreement in place before they can purchase it.
and how long do they have their contract?
What was our contract with them? I forget.
3 years.
No, it was more, it's a lot.
Well,
I heard it was 29 years, but I could be wrong.
I think that's, do you remember, Jack? But it was a lot of years, and we did that so that it would give them time to purchase it. They haven't gone over that, I forget what the threshold is. Do you remember the threshold, Jake, when we said they'd have to increase their rent payment? They haven't gone over that yet because they're still trying to get some of the permitting in place for processing the solids. But their lease, we do not lose any money on that. It's a triple net lease. They pay everything.
Do we make any money?
No, I mean, we're covering our costs.
The McGinnis property,
That's in the capital fund.
that doesn't matter. It's still part of our money, and that's always part of the
All
budget.
right, well, we'll talk about that in the capital fund. I want to stay with the stuff that's in the general fund right now,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
I mean, I'll shoot you straight here, Frank. I'm not hiding anything. I'm being completely
Well,
honest.
I would hope you don't.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Where are we at with the finance manager?
We are in, I think Steve told me we're gonna have something on the agenda next week, but I'm not sure.
That is correct.
That's correct. Yeah, we're gonna have something on the agenda next week to approve, and I'm glad too. Yes, Sharon.
So we're still on the general fund, and I had a couple questions about that. Is it possible, and this is nothing against Steve Caulfield, our new manager, but to lower the manager's spending threshold? Don't they have a certain amount that does not have to be brought to council that they can make purchases?
That's set by state law.
Okay, we can't control that at all as a council, a local
I mean,
municipality.
We could, but I
Because
need him to be able to do his job. If something comes up and let's just say, for example, the heating unit goes out and we have to replace the heating unit, I want him to be able to do that without coming to a meeting to vote.
I understand that, and that's what originally it was geared toward way back. Emergency situations. We had managers that spent it on branded merchandise and bling, just notebooks and pens and flags for the side of the building. And I think if you're in a crisis with money that you have to raise taxes, I think we need to reel in some of these things, however frivolous they seem. Some of this stuff is unnecessary. And when you don't know what that's being spent on until it shows up, that's really not a good idea, I don't think.
A part of that, Sharon, is the way the budget works is all of those purchases have to come from a line item in this budget. You notice you sat here for 4 years.
Yes.
You should know that when we pay those bills, it tells us what fund, what line item on this budget that money's coming from. He's not just making it up and saying, it still has to be accounted for in the budget.
Well, I understand that.
So-
But yes, he did make some of it up because he didn't come to us for questions on what he was purchasing, so. Anyway, moving on, I don't want to drag this out any longer. The other thing that happened in 2018 when the taxes were raised before, you had 2 borough managers tell you that you had a spending problem, not a revenue problem. So that goes hand in hand. And I know you said you made a lot of cuts with regard to staffing and so forth. And I agree, we need police, we need maintenance. I don't have a problem with my taxes going for those things. But I think you could look, you handed out a lot of bonuses, a lot of raises over the last years. I think you could also look at hiring more part-time staff rather than, or have a staffing freeze. Just anything that would help reel in some of the, to make that. You said 1 mil was like 438,000, was that about right? Or
Yeah.
that brings it in, to try to get closer to that. Anyway, thank
So,
you.
Well, we did, I think the full-time janitor it was a full-time janitor, wasn't it? That's going down to part-time, and it's only 1 instead of 2. So there have been those things. I don't.
But at the same time, and I don't want to bring anyone's name into it, but you did give a different position in that area with a 20,000 raise, and you've given out bonuses, generous raises, I think, without employee reviews. So I'm just saying,
The raises are contractual based on the union contract. The only ones that aren't in the union contract are the salaried employees.
okay, and those are what you're
And
talking
those-
about, the managers, because we sat here and
Yes.
voted whether to give them a
Yes.
certain amount or not.
Yes.
And we always voted yes to give it.
We
So-
gave them the same raises that the union contract that dictates the non-managerial staff were getting.
But you didn't have to. If they were managers, you're saying you did not have to give them
No,
the
we
same.
did not have to. But I'm telling you that how are you going to keep people if you're not going to give them a raise?
I didn't say you wouldn't give them a raise. I said you gave very generous raises. I'm just saying, and you gave them without reviews. So I'm just putting that out there as a
It's always
suggestion.
been without reviews because the union won't let us do reviews
On the managers,
on the regular employees. No,
but the managers aren't,
but
okay.
that's
But Sharon, if you remember correctly, last year when we were
Exactly.
negotiating salaries,
Mhm.
the managers did ask that we give them a greater increase than 3%. I think they asked for at least as much as what the police contract was doing.
with
If it was
the
4% or 5%, and much to my opposition, they disagreed. So we did not give them the raise
Right, but still,
that they asked
you
for.
didn't have to even give what you did. But anyway, I'm just saying, going forward, if you don't have to keep giving out raises and bonuses and just kind of reel in some of that spending where you can,
The
cut
bonuses
corners.
were from the ARPA money.
Yes.
And it was
And that was given to all employees, as I recall,
but it
and
was
no
for the
one-
contract.
but no one in this borough lost their job or suffered a loss during the COVID in this role that they had here working here. So it
But that-
seemed,
My point is that bonus was a one-time thing, and we used money funded by the state, or the federal government, for that. It wasn't,
it was everyone's money. And you chose to do it that way, yeah. Well, we chose to do it that way because I had to vote on that too, but
The rationale behind that and what we were told during those contract negotiations was that in in the private sector, many people have received raises. The rate of pay had gone up across all private sector, and we were not able to increase to make us competitive salary wise. So this was a one-time bonus to help, ease the fact that the people were choosing to work here, even though they were not making what they could make in the private sector.
Yes, and that would be their choice, because I don't grudge private sector for paying whatever they want to pay. But when you're talking about residents and taxpayers footing the bill, I'm just saying it's a different situation.
And I get that, but the question becomes, do you want quality employees or not?
Well, we're hoping to get them.
Well, right,
I
but
mean-
you can't think that you can get good employees if you're not going to pay them.
Well, I'm not suggesting you don't pay them. I'm just suggesting you maybe cut
Pay
it
them.
back.
Competitive
If-
wages.
You got to pay competitive wages.
And if people don't want to work for the government, then they work in the private sector. That's all I'm saying. You asked for suggestions on how we could cut and some spending. I'm just throwing some out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think part of the reality of it is that insurance prices have gone up so high. Like, it's not just what you pay your employees. You have to pay their insurance, their all of those extra amenities, and all of that has increased significantly.
Yeah, I mean, we had our meeting at work. Mine went up 15%.
And one thing that we talked about at the last meeting was to look into other insurance companies to see if there might be another insurance group that we could go with that would, be a little bit lower than what we're paying now.
But there's a point to that. Because of the Lancaster Intermunicipal Committee, we're a member of that, we were able to join an insurance
That's
consortium
true.
of several municipalities that were members of the Lancaster Municipal Committee. And up until this year, we received rebates. And actually, our premiums were based on how many experiences there were throughout that group. And we were receiving rebates. This year, there were some large payouts, insurance payouts, and I think it's understandable when you look around the workforce throughout the county, for the most part, in the municipal government, is getting older. And that's changing right now. You can see we're putting a lot more newer police officers on, some of our officers are retiring, and things like that, and that's happening throughout other municipalities. So I anticipate that while we got hit with 19% this year, that we'll probably be looking at a little lower rates in the future, because the younger your workforce is, the less experiences you have on the medical side. And then we talk insurances to our vehicles and everything else went up. So, so it's insurance as a whole has gone up. But I want to make 2 points, and Heather, you hit on it, but I think it needs to be perfectly clear, because it's a big misunderstanding amongst the folks out there that if you sell real estate, which we have done and which we are attempting to do, that money must go into the capital fund. And you can't take capital fund monies and put it into the general fund. To me, it's a shame you can't do that. To me, it's wrong. And I want to talk to our state legislators about that, because you can take money from the general fund, put it into capital, but you can't take capital funds and put it back. Well, if you're selling your property, you should be able to use that however you choose. To me, that's wrong in the state law, and I think we need to explore that, because that could really have an impact on the situations we're facing right now. And then the other point is, you talk about reducing costs. I sat down with Steve this morning. We had a real good conversation. And Steve, I don't know if you want to speak to this, but we talked about streamlining processes here in the borough that's going to have significant cost savings, but they're not going to happen today or tomorrow. They may happen throughout this budget year,
Right.
and we'll realize that by not drawing down on reserves as much as planned or budgeted. But those things take time to do. And I really like the ideas that Steve came up with and the suggestions on streamlining some processes, changing some programs to do some work. And I see significant savings according to the things that Steve talked about. And to me, that's great. I walked out of here this morning seeing that there's a method to try to reduce some of these costs even further than what y'all did.
Yeah, I mean, part of it, we've already started is doing electronic payments for a lot of the things that we have on that list that can be paid. We've been setting up even more as we're realizing like email was still going to the old finance manager, and so we didn't get an invoice because it went somewhere else, and so we're setting as much up electronically as we can, because that saves money in the check cost, the postage, and everything else.
And the work time, the time it takes an employee to do that work.
Oh,
Be
exactly.
doing something else.
If it's if it's auto pay, I mean, we've done that with Comcast and, pretty much all the utilities. Now, there are some things that we can't do electronically. But as much as we can, we're trying to keep moving in that direction. That's one of them.
So if I can elaborate just a little bit on what the mayor said, and Sharon, thank you, and just said personal, but I'm not going to be that guy. So, but I am very fiscally conservative. And with that, I have seen things, maybe it's because I'm new, I can see things from the outside when I come in, and efficiency is the big key to reducing our costs. We no longer can reduce staff. We are down to the bare bones in every single position that we have. We are contractual, so we do have 2 unions, and there's just nothing that I can do about that at this time. Maybe when the union negotiations and things come back up, we can look at different things. I tend to believe that we are probably in the best healthcare scenario that we have as far as price cost. But for me, until I get the facts, I don't know. So I need to go out and look at some other costs, look at some other providers, make sure that the costs that we have now are in line with what's out there. But I think as a borough going forward, we're also going to need to do that with everything that we do. So if it's going to cost $5,000, we need to have 2 or 3 other estimates that are telling us that that's what the true cost is. And I think if we pull all that stuff together and increase some of our technology in some places and stabilize the technology in others, I'll give you an example. When I came back here this time, I was absolutely shocked that they're still doing time cards by pencil and paper. Somebody has to take the time to fill all that out, send it over to the finance, they take it, they actually have to type it all in, and that's just one simple little thing. Everybody can do their own time cards online. There's thousands of different things. Why are we making things more difficult? So hopefully I can bring some of that into it. But to be honest with you, right now, we're at the crunch and budget time. I can't pick all this apart now and say where we can save. But I can tell you that's my job to dig through that and to find out where we can go. But the reality is we're here now, and how we play it going forward.
Yes, sir. Can you come to the microphone and speak?
My name is Gary Preston. I'm with Mark Bridge. I'm sure I can hear.
They can hear you online.
We need to hear you
How are you
online.
doing that? Oh,
Sorry, I know, I get it.
All right, my name is Gary Preston. I live in North 3rd Street. If money's so tight, why use hand out bonus checks to people? I mean, last time I was here, you hand out a $4,000 check 2 months ago. If the money is that tight, oh, you don't remember?
It was Jake.
Okay, now you remember. If the money's so tight, why are you doing it? It don't make sense to me.
That was because Jake is public works director and was also acting as borough manager.
I understand that. But if your money is so tight, as we're doing it, you're gonna raise my taxes and everybody else probably sitting here. Look, I don't see a whole lot done in this town. This gentleman did a favor of me a couple weeks ago, and I thank you for that. I asked to get the streets painted and the curves, and, he came down and did it for me. 20-odd years it hasn't been done. You've been cutting costs on that. You don't need to get bonuses out. I see one of his officers finally come down in my neighborhood and gave a man a ticket for being in the yellow zone. I thank that officer. Did his job. We need that. If our money's so tight, start looking. Can't give out money like that. I know you want to. I know you did extra work. Sometimes it takes a little more effort than just saying thank you instead of giving money away. I'm retired. I don't have a whole lot of money, and I'm pinching pennies too. Just want to say that.
Thank you. Yes, Frank?
The mayor brought up about the capital fund, and I brought it up. I know you said save it till later, but I have to address him and ask him a question. When the money gets depleted in the capital fund, where does it come from? How does that fund get built up?
You either transfer from general, or what has been keeping the capital fund alive is grants.
But I thought you said you can't transfer that from
No,
the
you
general
can
fund.
transfer from general to capital.
But not
You
the other
can't
way.
transfer from capital to general. If we could transfer from capital to general, for example, Frank, when we purchased or when we sold part of the Borough farm, we could have transferred that money into capital, into general fund, but we couldn't. The one property you bought,
Mhm.
okay? On the McGinnis tract.
I'm with you, so far.
We sold that couldn't go to general, it had to go to capital.
Okay, so we got a lot of money. Okay, and you also brought up about the $4,000 that was paid to the interim borough manager, which, no disrespect to Jake, I hated to see Jake get that position because he has enough of his own work to do. That was my only reason. But I come to find out you had nobody else to go to, or the council had nobody else to go to. I had one more thing, but it slipped my mind.
We did have someone that did contact us and offered interim services. However, they lived in the Poconos and wanted us to pay for them to rent an apartment here in the borough. And they wanted 4 times, yes, I'm serious. He reached out to me. He wanted us to rent him an apartment here in the borough,
I remember that.
and he would only come in 3 days a week.
You remember a name I brought up, Normisky, you didn't even blink an eye, never even mentioned the name. I don't think he would have took it, but he was there and he has the experience. I truthfully think Norm would have did some digging, and I don't think he would have liked that. That's my personal opinion. I don't care if you like it or not.
Yes, Sharon?
I just need to understand that last part now. You said we can replenish the capital fund using general fund. So then we are taking out of the general fund to finance some of these capital projects, if that's the case, because when was the last time we took money from the general fund to replenish capital? Does anyone remember that?
No.
But you can, but you're saying you can.
You can,
We've
but
been living on grants and like era money, those kind of funds.
Right, and grants,
selling the sewer plant, all of that money is what's in the capital fund.
I think we should.
because the capital fund was so depleted that one time, Mike Reiner stood here and told us it was in the red. And that was only a few years ago. So I just was still curious, but if you're saying you can use the general fund to put into the capital, then essentially some of your projects could be funded by the general fund, the way it sounds. So that's, yeah, okay, thank you.
Does anyone have anything, that, Steve, I had asked you to talk to managers to see if any of them had issues with any of the,
I talked to every manager, everything that we could provide to you, we did provide to you.
and they reviewed this latest iteration and there was nothing,
That is correct. I mean, we have some,
nothing that I did was out of line.
you know, we can, you know, raise certain fees that we see, like, some of the minor fees that we have, but that's only to make sure that we're
Covering our costs.
Our costs.
Right.
It's not a means or a way to make any kind of profit or to anything else.
Well, we can't. I mean, that's the law. You can't
Correct.
do that. We can't charge more than what it.
So there were some minor adjustments, but nothing that was really impactful at this point.
All or nothing, no issues with,
The only one I am concerned about were the contracted services. So it's 01413 is, it was at 5,000, and I guess Brian's concerned with that, it went down to 2,500 is because of certain current statuses we have. We don't get money back when we review inventory.
Right.
By any stretch of the imagination. So my only concern there is that it was lower than 25, because I probably promise you that one of the incidences that I'm talking about now, we keep that up right away.
well, and I can appreciate that. However, I look back through the last 5 years and we never even got close. So to me, I mean, if we're not getting close, and so then why keep it inflated if we're not using it? Because I would much rather sit in here in a council meeting and say, whoa, or when I review the finance reports, I would rather say, oh my gosh, this line is way over encumbered, what the heck happened? And be able to justify that than to sit here and say, I want these overinflated just in case. To me, that's not accurate.
Fine with that, just, you know.
But I can appreciate that. All right, Jake, you were good? Chris, Wilson? Jack?
When I met with Steve earlier today, I had discussed with him removing a corporal position. Now, I know you made some other modifications as far as the personnel, but that dollar amount for that salary was $102,000, so I'm not sure.
So that would go to a regular officer then, correct?
That's correct.
So then we'll have 4 sergeants and 1 corporal?
Yes, well, the lieutenant position is still included,
Okay,
right?
okay.
And then, so we would have 1 lieutenant,
Mhm.
4 sergeants, and then 1 corporal. So the number of ranking officers remains constant. We're not increasing. And then the other,
Okay, yeah, because as I had it, it was increased by 1. It was like a total of 22.
okay,
Because I had,
so I'll just need to crunch those numbers a little more closely.
well, I can crunch it right here. Let's see. 172.
And I have another point as well.
And then we would have, what's that? officer salary. I'll have to add one more officer back in. Okay,
Yes, and that's, I think you're referring to line item 014131, which is police officer salary.
yeah, I'll have to add it.
Right. So when I worked the numbers, I was checking the numbers from the last meeting, and we were over on that line item as well, about 120,000. So I'd like to just look at the numbers and make sure that,
That one, the officers, hang on, I can tell you exactly.
Isn't that including 2 new officers?
2 new officers for half-time. And I counted, oh, and Jack, there is something I need to talk to you about then, with this. But I counted in that officer category,
yes,
most of them are off the step, so they're there, but then the ones that were on the step, I counted them at the next step up, like after so many years. I did that, but I put the task force is also in that officer number.
that is correct. And that's actually detective salary.
So that was, then I didn't add it at the detective salary, I added it at the officer salary. Let me mark that down.
It's not going to be a big difference.
No, it's not, but I want to make it as accurate as possible.
Yes.
So I had 4 sergeants, 2 corporals, so I'm taking a corporal off, and then let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 officers that are off the step. And then I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are on the step.
Yeah.
And I had 1 at the detective salary, and that's also in those police officer salary.
Right, and all of that should not be under police officer salary 410-131, because corporal has its own line item. Sergeant-
No, I know, yeah, the corporal's on the corporal line item,
Right,
sergeant's on the sergeant line.
okay,
Yeah, they're all broken out. The only ones that are lumped together are the officers, the drug task force, and the detective. All the rest of them are there.
so your numbers appear to be in line. I just wanted to maybe get with you and just double check that.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
yeah, that's fine. And pretty much all of them I took off of the police, the union contract.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Here, I can, is this what we discussed today? Okay,
I did give the printout at the hour.
okay.
All right. I got a text from Peter. Yes, Frank.
Just for the record, how many officers do we have currently
Sure, we currently have 19
total?
total.
Does that include the detective?
It does.
Yes.
And how many are we short?
Our goal has been to get to 21. So we added in 2 new officers for 2025.
Right. But we only added them for half the year because the reality is if we're lucky enough to find 2, it won't be till June till they start anyway.
Until they get on board with testing?
Yes, that's included. Yeah, that's included in that line, 01, 410, 131.
That's
You
correct.
can see off to the side, there's 13 staff members. That includes detective, task force, and 2 new officers for 6 months.
I just wanted to clarify, I wasn't giving 19 and
Yeah.
those 2 new officers.
Oh,
no, no.
That's where it was going. I just-
Anything else?
Can I just ask a quick question, please? When the McGinnis property is sold, we will receive tax revenue from that, won't we?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
The taxes, I mean, as it is now, before we purchased the property, we were getting like $5,000 a year for it, which is because it was a clean and green. So we're gonna get significantly more than $5,000. Because just take the value times 0.08. Where what come from? That's the amount of taxes, that's the tax assessment from all of the different, the total of all the different parcels, because there was like, what, 8 different parcels or something weird. So, yeah, can you come to the microphone, please?
Sorry. Robin Porter, just that money then, if that's the tax income, does that go to the general fund?
Yes,
Okay,
that'll go to the general fund.
Thank you.
So, and that, I mean, originally, that was why it was decided to take on this project, was to stabilize the tax base and increase the tax base so that we can get more tax revenue. We're landlocked. We don't have much, and the way assessments work, the most valuable real estate assessment wise is commercial property. Commercial is worth more than residential property. So, you want something.
Have you looked into, I don't know a lot about it, but like a home rule charter that you could tax in other ways, like an income tax that would account for people who are renting. There's so many renters that would just like a different way so that wouldn't just all be on property owners.
We have talked about that it could be a possibility. I know Lancaster City just went through it, so that's why everyone's seeing it. I know I've been at conferences. I've talked to several municipalities, several boroughs that have it, and they say it was very difficult to go through and set up. You need a lot of involvement up front. And I mean, Lancaster City, the number of people on there, I mean, it was outrageous. We'd be sitting here in the same situation. Oh, they want to raise our taxes. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, the real estate taxes get levied on every property. I mean, everyone is paying those as well. I mean, I guess to me, it's like,
One of the dangers of the home rule, and it may bear out
yeah,
with some of the things that happen here in the county. But municipalities that go to home rule sometimes, and you mentioned it, put other taxes on, because home rule allows you to add more of what they used to call Act 511 taxes, nuisance taxes, they used to call them. You can put other taxes on. What that tends to do, and what that would do to a small municipality like Columbia, is more than likely you would see an increase in taxes to businesses. And that would possibly hold back economic development and businesses coming into the community. That's one of the pitfalls that you have to really watch that you don't fall into. You don't want to create an extra tax for your residents, okay? Because that's the same as paying income tax, your real estate tax. So you tend to give taxes elsewhere, and usually what that does, it hinders economic development. Will it do it or not? I don't know. There's also a thing that possibly the borough could look into. If we look into home rule, you might remember, Frank, close to about 30 years ago now. Rose was the mayor back then, so I'd be around 25 years ago. We looked into it and they decided not to. A lot of other municipalities did the same thing. Another thing to look at, and I want to explore it over the next year, is there an advantage to Columbia going and listing themselves as a city versus a borough? Because cities tend to allow you to do some things. And it may be good, it may not be good, but it's just like Steve said with insurance. It pays to take a look at it and see what may benefit us.
Yes, Sharon?
I wanted to address the hindering of economic development for just a minute. Raising taxes on us, I believe, is going to also have the ability to make it more difficult for us to sell our properties. Because who's going to want to pay the highest, well, maybe second highest taxes in Lancaster County? You have to consider that it could become a burden to us, not, if we decide we can't afford it, have to leave, how are we going to sell it? And how do you attract business if you're going to be taxing everyone, higher? You're going to have, if you want to attract homeowners and business, I think you need to keep the taxes fair. And to have them so high, why wouldn't common sense tell you to look somewhere else then? Thank you.
Sharon, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Just for conversation purposes, we're facing a situation right now to where the taxes that we have are not covering the cost of the services that we provide.
Mhm.
So what would you recommend that we cut?
Well, I tried to describe that earlier to some extent with the general fund, but tell me, like last year when we went through this, I suggested discussing the crossing building, and that went over like a lead balloon. I mean, that was just taboo, and I think I was scolded by the mayor for bringing it up. I think we need to look at that, because my understanding, and please correct me if I'm not getting this right, we're not earning any money off that building, not a dime, but we're putting out at least $150,000 a year. Now we're faced with nearly $500,000 in repairs. I know some will come from a grant, but I suggested volunteers staffing it or something like that so that you could keep it open. But that was just not received well. So when do we look at something that is costing us money, but it's not generating any revenue for us? And we have to maintain the building and so forth. People are always mowing grass down there and doing, and they need to keep it neat. It needs to stay neat. I understand that, but we're spending a lot of money down there every year.
So going on that, Rotary Park doesn't make us any money. Why would we not sell that?
I didn't suggest selling that. I suggested staffing it with volunteers. The management alone of that building is almost 150, I think, annually.
Right.
And
But the money.
we have to be paying part of that because that was a grant in the beginning, I think. But
No, it's paid for by the cell tower lease and the Laxmama money.
in full, we're not putting any general fund money into that staffing.
75,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, we're not putting 75 in.
No, that's what we're getting.
That's what we're getting. So it
We're
works.
75,000.
Yeah, maybe, 60,000.
I also asked last year at budget time about consolidating police services, which other municipalities have done. I only asked for a discussion. I know we need police and everybody loves our force. It's just something that all I heard was it's going to cost too much. That's all I ever heard. I wanted to see numbers, actual figures in front of me, so we knew what too much looked like. But nobody presented that.
We don't
Can't
have
get
anyone,
numbers if no one wants to talk to you
Well-
about,
right?
you know,
No one wants to merge. No one wants
how do
to,
you get the numbers? if-
How recent did we approach people, though? I mean, we don't really,
We have sat down at these tables and talked with other municipalities.
but how recent was that? I mean, did anybody change their mind since then?
Right now, we are actively discussing that.
Okay,
I
well, that's fair
personally
enough.
spoke, I personally spoke to a neighboring municipality about 6 weeks ago
Okay,
and was actively laughed at for suggesting that, we could, merge.
well, and the only reason I bring it up is because it costs all of our property tax that we bring in as municipal tax to run the force. I think it's actually over 100%, right?
Yes, it is.
So, anyway, thank you.
But you know, most mergers cost more than.
Well, and yes, that's constantly what we've been told. But when I don't see numbers, I don't know what too much is. I don't know what more is if I don't see the numbers for that.
One thing we're waiting on right now is something we're sitting here for tonight. We need to see other municipalities' budgets. Okay, so that we can talk and be able to talk numbers.
Okay, and you can get that.
Right now, everybody's doing their budget. That's what I'm
Right.
saying.
Okay,
As soon
okay.
as the budget's over, Steve and I talked about it this morning, as soon as the budgets are done and we see what the other municipalities have budgeted, then we can start talking. Because we can't start negotiating if we don't know what they're spending currently. We're doing the same thing.
Okay.
So you gotta know what they're spending.
And now I thought would be a really good time to discuss this. I think you were talking about that too, Eric, at one point, because we do have a number of officers that are in the drop program, right?
Yep.
And so now might be a good time to entertain that. Thank you.
It's gonna take something like that to correct our budget.
Yep.
And maybe not that big, but something to correct our budget. Saving $4,000, saving $140,000 isn't gonna fix our budget.
No.
It's gonna take something huge like that.
Yes, Frank.
Thank you, Heather. Steve, you asked where we could save. Let's start with the market house. I know you're all going to say that's working. Don't touch that. My understanding of what I heard, it's costing us between $15,000 and $20,000 a year. I come to meetings and I find out, oh, people ain't paying. Who is in charge of that? Because we don't have a finance manager, is that why the people aren't paying? If we would get our money in, wouldn't that be a help?
The amount of delinquent rents is very, very low, and it might happen,
If that's the case, then why ain't they paying them? If,
different things happen. I don't know. I don't know why.
I mean,
things happen.
you 7 people are, well, who's ever heard the night 6 people is in charge, you ought to be on top of these things.
Frank, the reason I was late or almost late coming out here tonight was because Chris and I were going over exactly that, which was the whole budget of the market, everything from the electric to the gas to the cost of each stand. So we're trying to get that in, and there's going to be a choice sometimes that you have to make as whether or not what it costs to run the market house is adding to the culture of the community. Is it worth it? Would you want to shut the whole entire market house down for $10,000 a year? Those are questions that need to be asked and answered to council. And I personally, I don't think so. I think it would be a detriment if you shut the whole building down for $10,000 a year. Now, when you start talking about $100,000 a year, yeah, it makes no sense to keep it open. So, I mean, I'm just laying out the facts for you out there. If we raise the prices of each stand too high, nobody's going to come in and rent the stands, then you have an empty market house. So there's a balance there. And again, take a little while to get that balance right, but I think we're heading in the right direction in that one.
Okay,
Likewise, if we shut it down, we would never get the money from the RACP on that. So we would have to foot the whole cost of the renovation. So it's not just $10,000 a year, it's what, 1.25 million right off the bat, because we never get the money.
well, I only brought it up to make you aware of it. Sometimes some people get brain dead, they forget, they just, I just want to make you aware of it. My other issue is, through the years, they want to revitalize, I keep hearing, revitalize the downtown. Look at the money that was poured into the downtown. Just for instance, I know some of you get the Sunday paper. There was a property that sold for $4 million that I think was bought for $350,000. Now, I know this is taxed at the last assessment. I don't know when that was, 2018 maybe, and it's taxed at that rate. But why aren't we getting revenue? Why aren't we getting taxes out of these high-value properties? Now,
We get
hold on. I understand you're going to tell me that that's not within your powers. You don't make the assessment. I understand that. But shouldn't you be talking to these people and asking questions? Hey, how can this happen? $4 million you get for a property. It was bought for $350,000. It's I know there was a lot of money put into it, but what I'm looking at, our tax base is what I'm looking at. They're the ones that's setting it when they assess that property.
We do get part of the deed transfer tax. And you'll see that line
1%, right?
in our budget has gone up and up, the
Absolutely.
last couple of years. It has gone up because we're getting that deed transfer tax. That actually, we get half of that and the school district gets half.
You get 1%.
Yeah.
It's a 2% tax, right? And
Yep.
I agree, that's where some of our money's coming from, but it just seems like what it was designed to do to build up the downtown is not helping the town, period. That's just my feeling. Somebody should be on top of these people and say, how can you assess it at this? Or the leader would be the ones to bring it up. They ain't gonna pay attention to just the average homeowner. But that's just an issue that I got.
Frank, an answer to that. And because of the media's here, I'm going to be cautious in what I say. It is my understanding that the county was due for a reassessment when COVID hit. So they stalled the reassessment. We are now, and I talked with the commissioners, they're now talking about probably a reassessment within the next 2 years or so. We are eagerly anticipating that to make corrections, exactly what you said, the corrections on the development that has been done here in our downtown, that will correct that. That will have I'll say a significant impact on our tax structures when that's done.
Yeah, the only thing that it won't affect is the ones that's in the KOZ, they got their 10 years
That
or whatever.
basically has worked its way out.
No, it hasn't.
There's still a couple, but some of them have gone out of the KOZ.
Do you have an idea how many's left in that, Heather?
5.
Roughly 5.
5. I was trying to visualize the paper. 5.
Okay.
They may hit about the time of the reassessment.
Yeah, unfortunately, 3 of them, I think, aren't developed yet anyway, so it'll be the next reassessment. So, but I mean, Frank, the other part of that is reassessment does happen when someone takes when they get a building permit because they're doing repair or they're doing improvements on the property. Once those improvements are done, the assessment does get updated to reflect those improvements. However, just like you said, it's increasing that assessed value based on what it was in 17. So it'll still go up a little, it'll still go up more during the reassessment, but we are seeing some of that because we get, I think they're called is it the interims or the interim tax bills? We get the interims.
And answer me this, I hear pros and cons, yeses and nos. When a property transfers and it sells for an enormous price, is that getting reassessed when it transfers?
No. No, and it only gets reassessed at the reassessment time, like the countywide reassessment, or if they had improvements on the property once those, the building permits go down through and they say, oh, you did X, Y, and Z, and now it's worth blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
That's it.
And does all building permits that go through the borough go to the assessment office?
Yes,
All of them?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because they all go through Commonwealth Code, and Commonwealth Code sends them down. So, all right. General fund. Which column what are we thinking here?
There's 2.4 million in reserves.
Yeah.
So at best, that gets us through 1 more year at the current rate.
Actually, less than that, because we have, there's an ordinance in place that tells us, what the minimum reserve is.
So you gotta do something.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, I wanted to say, Peter texted he is unfortunately ill. He brought up two things that he thinks that should be removed. He says the one thing I would have brought up, the building maintenance line for the clock. He believes he has figured out the problem with the clock, so he wants to drop the idea of changing out the mechanism. And he would also like to remove the item for changing the access to the clock tower.
That reminds me of something I wanted to find out about. Where on the expenses is fireworks for next year?
It's down at
And is it
the
still $10,000? 8,000, I would vote to remove that. I think that's something private organizations in the borough, like the clubs and stuff, could put their money together and do that. That, I don't think government should pay for that.
With all the complaints we get every year about fireworks.
So here's why I disagree with that. There was a lot of people down to River Park last year.
Yes, there was.
A lot of country residents. Whether you keep the 8,000 or remove the 8,000, is it going to change our budget? And our budget will have problems.
We can say that about everything, but once we start cutting.
But we have been
I-
cutting,
And
that's the problem.
I'm not saying get rid of the fireworks, but put it into someone else's hands. Like Marietta's government, they don't pay for their fireworks. The private businesses and clubs in that place, they put their money together. They work on it all year long.
There was talk of that part from
Yes.
some other people about, not so much funding that, but having activities and things like other places have, for somebody privately to do that, but I haven't heard that anyone's come forward to do that.
No, that was the problem this year. There was no one that came forward to do that.
Did anyone ask?
Yes.
I mean, take it out,
I just don't think it's
Take-
necessary.
take it out.
Let me ask, go a little further, because I remember this discussion, and I think it fell through last year. Is there ongoing discussions with Wrightsville Borough?
Yes.
to Do a combination out over the river from the
Yes,
side?
and they are planning that we are going to, continue with that next year.
Now, that makes me think a little differently. If we're going to do that, that's something that I supported for years. Matter of fact, I talked with their council president about doing that.
Mhm.
So, I'm back off on that. And you're right, Eric, I think that's,
I mean, you gotta, you're taking, you gotta give back. Now granted, we give back, I'm not saying wasteful give back. I'm not saying, there's municipalities that have money put from general to park funds. Some of these municipalities in our area have park funds of $450,000. Yet we budget $5,000 for a park. I mean, and that's basically maintenance. So I understand the situation. I'm a taxpayer too. But at what point do we become so tight that we're not doing anything? I don't want to live where we're dependent on a grant every day to do something.
Right.
I'm not saying we have to go extreme. And yes, I did say four mills. Realistically, if you can't cover your expenses with your revenue, then something's wrong. But we are heavily granted. So 4 mills may be not even a question to even think about. But at the same time, realistically, what is our role? The services we provide, the roads, the police, the fire, the community parks. But we don't put any money aside for emergencies. We don't put money aside for reserves. We don't put money aside for capital investment. We don't put money aside for anything. And at what point, do we get to the point where stuff just falls apart and we have no money to do anything with? That's all I'm saying. Put it off another year. Put off raising taxes another year. I'm fine with that. I'm just saying, at some point, we have to be responsible, whether it's me or someone else sitting up here, has to finally say, enough's enough, we gotta be responsible. We had a market house that cost us $2 million to fix because we didn't have the money to invest in it. So we let it sit there, let it sit there. Our municipal building's in the same shape. And we're gonna paint it this year, hopefully it's in the budget still. But like the clock tower hasn't worked. At what point do you say we're just not gonna put money aside for repairs or anything like that? That's my point. Cutting out $8,000, fine. Close the market house, close River Park. That still does not, we still have so much expense that it still exceeds our revenue. So we're not talking a $4,000 bonus. We're not talking $8,000 fireworks. We're not talking 3% raises for the managers. We're talking something big has to change. That's the reality of it. Because we're already at zero this year. We're minus 1.1 million, 1.2 million. Next year, there's going to be a 3% increase. Maybe no managers get an increase, but there's going to be an increase for all the uniformed people in Columbia. The year after that, there's going to be another 3% increase, another 3% increase. And oh yeah, we'll eventually get reassessed, everybody. And everybody's property value that they bought their home for $80,000 is now worth $220,000. That's great. But as soon as that gets reassessed, we got to drop our taxes back to our budget numbers.
Right.
So the reassessment doesn't help us. It does to minimal some of the new projects like Frank said and everything else. But the reality of it is we're not really generating new revenue simply because we're landlocked. It's a very unfortunate situation.
The one thing, one sec, Michelle, let me say something. Several of us were sitting, went to a thing last week with the, Columbia EDC. One of the speakers there was a gentleman, from York County, from the York County EDC, I believe he was
Yes.
from. And he gave a discussion about how outdoor recreation is the big thing that draws people to live in an area. And, you know, it used to be people would move to where the jobs were, but in this day and age, when people can work remotely, they can work from anywhere. The jobs want to locate where the people want to live. People want to live where they have opportunity for outdoor recreation, where they have opportunity for, you know, things to do outside of their home. If we're not investing in our parks and our culture that way, we're losing out on those people that want to locate here just for that outside activity. We saw a graph that showed where people downtown, where they came from, and everything else, and where our river park generates income outside of the river park and where those people go. 95% of the people, when they leave River Park, come into our downtown business, and they spend money there. The people from as far away as Pelham and York can be tracked coming into here after they leave trails over in York County. So it's the whole area that's benefiting. And if we're talking about not investing and keeping up our outdoor assets, we're making us unattractive for people to relocate here. And then what happens then? Then we have more slumlords come in. And then the property values go down. And then the taxes have to go up even more. We want this to be an attractive place to live. We want it to be an attractive place for people to come here and fix up their properties and take care of things. And when we do that, that's when the burden's relieved on everyone. But we can't do that if we're not making any investments in ourselves. So, I'm sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
I just have a little bit of a suggestion, and I'm not even sure if it's one you've even considered before. Maybe it was about the Lancaster City. This thing's way too high.
Yeah, pull it down. Yeah, because we're
I have a
short.
big enough mouth anyway.
I know, me too.
So I have a friend that lives in Derry Township. And their tax structure is by the individual who lives in the home. So she owns the home, her son lives there. He pays a tax and she pays a tax twice a year, school and to the township. Is that what's happening is that the restructuring in Lancaster City or what they were considering, or?
No, what they did was they basically rewrote the structure of their government, their all of like the rules and everything else. And then they said, in addition to paying the property tax, we set the property tax at this, they're also going to assess an additional amount on the earned income tax.
Okay.
So that's how they're doing it.
Okay, so I just thought I'd bring that up. Didn't know if that was an option. The other one was,
Interesting.
yeah, I brought it up on their site, so anyone can look at it. It's Derry Township's tax structure.
Yeah, townships
And you have to make at
different-
least $12,000 a year. And at 65, it's capped off. You don't pay tax after you're 65 years of age, which we have a huge population of elderly.
Yeah, Leo's right. Townships have different rules, and they might be.
Didn't
I don't know if
just
they're
thought I'd
first
bring
or-
it up. I thought it's an
But
idea.
no, thank you. Yeah,
I like the idea of our older generation who cannot afford the taxes. And this might be a debate that my husband and I have on quite a bit of time. But, if it was my grandmother and she had to figure out how to pay her taxes and we increased it, it would be hard on her. I wouldn't want her to lose her home, something she paid for, worked all her life for. My grandfather worked all his life for, right? So there has to be another solution. So my other question is, what is our percentage ratio for rent to own home? What is that percentage? Is it 50, 40? Is
Yeah,
it 50, 50?
it's
That's
just
awfully
about-
high
Yes, it is.
for such a small little community, right?
Yes, it is.
Why is that? Did that happen like a long time ago and now we're just dealing
It's
with
just
that
been-
structure now?
I mean, it's just been, I mean, people, for years, the investment was real estate. So you had all these people investing in real estate. But also now, they're,
Flipping homes and stuff, right?
but
Making
no,
apartments out of them, maybe?
no, I mean,
I don't know.
we haven't been able to turn a home into a multi-unit in how many years?
That been grandfathered or?
That's been like 20 years.
Parking has prohibited.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of put the
Yeah.
limit on it.
I mean, it's been 20 years since they were allowed to
But still,
chop a
it's
home
awfully
up.
high.
Yes, it is, but
Been that way for a long time.
there's,
Why? Why do we have to
because when
stay
you
like
have,
that?
when you have lower home values, which is what we had here in Columbia,
I understand.
the ability to make money renting them is great. So investors would buy them to just be a rental.
When about 10 years ago, we were running, maybe a little longer, 10 years ago, we were running close to 60-40. Okay, 60 owner
My
occupied,
God.
40% rentals.
Mhm.
That extra 10% showed up when the stock market dropped. Okay, when the stock market dropped, investors, and I can name some of them, but I don't want to.
Well, the housing market crashed, right?
No, the
Kept it
stock
dropping?
market dropped and the market crashed. Investors, rather than investing their money as groups,
Mhm.
not just individuals, but groups also, they invested in properties because they were making more return on their investment than they would if they would have been in the market.
Mhm.
Back then, you could pick up multiple homes in Columbia in that $50,000 range and rent them out, say, $600 to $1,000 a month. They were making a lot of money over what they could make it in the market. And what happened now is, now that homes are being hard to find, the value of the homes are gone up, and they're still hanging on them, but they're increasing their rents.
Yeah, that doesn't seem quite fair, does it?
Yep.
And it doesn't seem quite fair, the strife on the homeowners either as well.
See, where I live, you know, hey, we got to pay.
Yeah.
Well, the owner does.
The owner pays the property tax.
They got people living with them that bring their families in, there's 8, 10
Yeah, there's
people.
more people in those properties. I think we all know that.
That's what we work on every day, we shut one down with
Yep.
none.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a safety hazard and it's a cost factor. Right. So I would just, can they?
It's not about them not being apartments, because a lot of times it's a single family home. It's a single home.
Yeah, how do we catch
Well,
that?
and that's what we're trying to, with changing the ordinances, you know, what, you can't dictate use.
No, you can't do that.
You can't do that. It's
You
against
can't
the law.
dictate that it's a homeowner that lives
No,
there or
you
a family
cannot.
member?
No, but what you do is you hold landlords accountable.
You hold landlords accountable. You tell them they can't get, if their tenants do this, they don't get a rental, they can't get the rental registration. You hold them accountable.
I'm sorry. I live beside a place that's right on 3,000. And I gotta pay these taxes. You know, I'm 67 years old. You know what? I tax me in here now. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that, but it is an issue apparently.
It is.
50/50 is high. 60/40 is outrageous.
Well, most municipalities.
Yeah.
Most
They
small
like that.
town, most
cities and
boroughs.
Are now running somewhere in the 40s to somewhere in the 50s. It's almost 50/50 in most. Lancaster City's probably running close to 50/50.
Do they have, does that include our, like Holt, the Trinity House in
Yeah.
St. Peter's as well? So we have only 2 of those in our community. We don't have more, and they don't really, I don't
St.
have,
John's.
St. John's, yes, you're right, St. John's as well.
I mean, the other part of that is there is a changing, the demographics, not just, I mean, I know Lancaster County because we hear the statistics, but it's happening all over. The demographics are changing, and a lot of the people, a lot of older people are choosing to rent rather than owning the property because they can rent and not have to worry about property maintenance and everything else. The younger professionals are choosing to rent rather than buy because, first of all, the cost of real estate is too high, and second of all, it allows them to move around and go where they want. You know, if they can work from home, they're going to go and live where they want to live, and renting allows them to move basically whenever they want. Whereas if they owned a home, they're kind of stuck there. So, I mean, there is a lot that goes into that as well. There is a market for rentals, and it's not just, rentals from slumlords.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate over the years to be part of the land bank. We were the first community to sign up and work with the land bank. We've turned, and Steve worked with this in his other job also, we've turned several houses that we were able to acquire through condemnation or whatever have you, and turn them into single-family owner-occupied homes. So I think we're up somewhere around 15 right now.
It's probably around 15.
But there again, going back to something that was discussed earlier, we need seed money to feed that, to be able to buy some of those properties. But that program has been doing very well, and we still work at that. We still have some properties working at, and it takes a long time, but, every property that you're able to turn, that's one that is an owner-occupied now. And that helps cut it down. It would be nice to have $1 million to purchase properties and do that, but we don't have that.
Yeah, I mean, the problem now with the land bank is the cost of renovations and everything is so high that they don't necessarily want it. It costs more than what they can sell the house for to be able to fix it up. So we're stuck on that too.
Yeah, the property on Fifth Street.
Mhm.
Property on Fifth Street, when there was 2 homes burned on fire. We would love to place something in there. The cost to put the 4 units in there was a little over $2 million. Problem is, getting someone who's willing to invest $2 million, because they'll never get that $2 million back in rent. But we didn't want rent, we wanted owner occupied. They'd have had to sell each one of those homes at $500,000 to break even.
Right.
Because of the cost.
Wasn't there like home insurance?
That's gone. That's gone with the owners.
Yeah.
Why weren't they responsible for the property?
They are.
They walked away from them?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
took light on the community?
Yes, that happens more than, that's what happened up on Locust Street. The house there with the fire. Twice. I mean, now, we have an ordinance in place that when there is a fire, we get, part of the insurance money gets sent to us to hold until the property is, like, we get fire escrow. So we hold part of that money till the property's fixed up and we are sure we don't have to do anything. But, because in fact, we gave the fire escrow to the land bank for some of the work over on Fifth Street. We used fire escrow up there on Locust Street to do some of the immediate stuff that needed done for safety. There was like an issue with a tree or something like that. So, I mean, we can use that fire escrow when there's immediate things that need fixed, but otherwise we're stuck with a blighted property. It is. It's very unfortunate. And then it goes through the Vacant Property Reinvestment Board. It has to go through the Vacant Property Reinvestment Board before the municipality can do anything about it. Because I sit on that board, and every month we are talking about these properties that are just sitting in municipalities and being blighted and so, thoughts on Peter's thing, that would take $100,000 out of the line for, that would be, where is it? Oh, I'm in the revenue. Expenses, it would be,
Clock tower.
no, it's maintenance and repair of building 01-409370. That would reduce that from 140 to 100, or to 40,000. That's a nice,
Of the whole building.
of that line item is currently at 140,000
What's the line?
because it's the maintenance and repair of building.
So we're not gonna paint this building. You say it needs painted this year?
It's touch up. It's just the touch up. It's not the whole thing, but touch up is $20,000. And then the gutters and downspouts on Sadie Lane was $20,000.
My question is, I remember the discussion about the clock tower, the safety
Mm-hmm.
of going up and down that clock tower. So I question dropping money out of that this way. I could see dropping money out of it if it's safe for someone to go up there. If it's not safe for someone to go up there, you gotta make it safe.
Mm-mm.
It's not good access, that's for sure.
I don't wanna see Wilson on Lori's desk.
Well, they moved her desk, so now he's up on a ladder. He's not on her desk because they moved her desk. So, am I taking just the clock out or am I taking both?
Take them both out.
Take them both out. All right.
Looks like you're back to a rope, Wilson.
No, it's a ladder. I saw it. All right. Jack, I saw you crunching numbers. Do you have that number for the officer's salary? While I'm in the, I figured I pulled it up to work on it.
Yes, I-
Wait, 979,508 is what I had.
No. 11572, I believe.
Oh, 1152973.
There you go.
Okay. 1152973. Okay. I was like, wait a minute, that's what I had. 1152973. All right, well, I think that we, so with those changes made, is there any other changes we need in the general fund?
So from police, there's changes to 01410131 and 01410143. That's 143 is the court one. Is that-
Yes, I had already made that
You already
change.
made that, okay.
Yep, I made that change. And then made the change to the 131 and 143. Change the maintenance and repair of building, which is 409,370. Am I taking out fireworks or leaving them in?
Say leave them in, and let's try to see if we can't find community support,
Mhm.
and then just eliminate it from our expense line.
Yep.
We'll get that taken care of. I can't imagine there's not professionals or businesses out there that wouldn't want their name attached to
Right.
that celebration.
One thing that we have not talked about at all, and that is the contributions and community investment. First of all, the fire department, public safety, fire. Line item 01411500. I kept that at the 111 where it's been. Is
Say a number again.
the line number?
Yes, please.
411-500. $111.
Is that what their ask was this year?
No, it's
No.
higher.
Their ask was 150.
That's right, 150. I think we're lucky to have the volunteer fire company that we do.
Yes,
And
we are.
if their ask is 150, historically, they've not ever gone crazy and asking like an exorbitant amount. I think maybe we should look at changing that to 150. I mean, they're counting on that. Usually, they're counting on that to make their budget, so. That's your fire company. Gotta have them.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
Yes, it is.
Is that typically what they get every year?
The 111, yes.
Oh, 111 is what they get.
Yes.
But they're asking-
How long has it been at that rate, if you know?
Well, it's only been at that rate, I think it's been 2 years. Because prior to that, we gave them a contribution, and then we also gave them money for gas, and then their insurance. There was all the separate lines. So what we did was we combined all of those into one line, so that we weren't having to, piecemeal things. Yeah. I would, if we're increasing something in that fire department thing, I would rather see us increase the individual firefighter tax rebates. Give it to the people directly.
If you split the difference, give. They're asking for an extra $40,000. Give them $20,000 and just, I'm not saying like equalize the acts, but increase the tax rebate as well. Gives something to the department for operating expenses, and it gives volunteers incentive to keep them volunteering.
I don't know why I said that, because I didn't look at the numbers of what that, like, what the increase and what it would be.
The school district offered as a fire tax rebate.
I don't know.
Does Mr. Leaders know what it is?
Mr.
There's a letter.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Leader,
Yes.
what rebate is the school district giving? Okay. Yeah, that's how ours is.
Same thing.
Mhm. All right, well, along with that, we didn't talk about the other contributions. Historic Preservation Society is $5,000.
It's necessary.
Mount Bethel is $5,000.
Why do we give Mount Bethel 5,000 and not the other cemeteries?
Because The other cemeteries are privately owned, whereas that Mount Bethel is a trust. And if Mount Bethel is, if that fails, that comes back on us. It's our cemetery.
Right.
The other ones are not that way.
I just want
Yeah.
to make sure.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm good with Mount Bethel.
Mhm. Public library, 15,000. We had just increased that last year.
You know, the sad truth about that is, I see other municipalities at 45, 65,000, or 15. And we are fortunate enough to have one of the most beautiful libraries around.
Oh, I know. It's truly a gem
It is.
in here.
So if we don't do anything this year, I hope we can increase it next year.
We didn't get there yet because everyone's, yeah, so I'm just trying to move things along. Columbia United Veterans Council, $1,000.
Yes, that's the great. Keep it,
Columbia Cat Action Team,
get rid of it.
Didn't we say like last year they should be working towards funding themselves?
yes,
Or they're just going to help temporarily?
yes.
And where are they at with that?
And I mean, honestly, when Alan came in, he made it sound like, it was a big rosy picture. But then when you hear people that are involved with it, they're like, oh, it's, yeah. Yes, Sharon.
Okay, so obviously I'm going to speak in favor of the cat money staying there because I heard somebody say get rid of it. I do
Who's
believe,
ringing? Please stop. Okay.
okay, so the $4,000 in the amount of time that this team has been in place, we have now come to 20 registered colonies. Is that what you told us, Paula? 20. That's phenomenal, I think, to get a community to buy into this program. We got it to a point where we had a change in the ordinance regarding feeding and so forth, and the registering of the colonies. I don't know why you'd want to stop now. We have at least a dozen regular volunteers that show up for the monthly meeting, and
How many of them are active in trapping though?
well, most of the 12 are. It's not just trapping. It's trapping, housing, transporting. I mean, a lot of physical labor goes into that. That's why I partly backed off a little myself with the physical part, because it takes a lot to do the trapping and transporting. And it's all volunteer people. And I think if you back off now, it's going to be a problem. They have a waiting list of 45 cats right now to the end of the year. And they've done, I think it's over 350 now, if I have that. Rita says yes. So, so we've done, really well with this program. I think we've proven that. And I would hate to see it pull the plug on that.
Do they get funding or anything from anywhere else or just us?
The reason we became the 501c3, well, we didn't become that. That's not true. We went under the umbrella of the shelter. And so they've been great. And Alan sits on the board there now. And they do fundraising and things of that nature. And they have separate accounts, I believe, I don't want to speak out of turn. So Rita, if you want to jump in and help, that would be great. She knows a lot about it. I just think it'd be a mistake to pull the funding at this point.
Rita Seibel, live up on Kinderhook. I think the biggest issue with cutting the funding now for CCAT is we've made so much progress. You stop now, all that progress that we've done to reduce the cat population in the community, in the borough, that's going to just go right back up to where it was. We've got to keep going for probably, I don't know how many more hundreds we need to get, but there's a percentage, and we are working really directly and hard towards that percentage to make it happen. If you have more cats back in this community, you're going to have a lot more people having problems with cats. And we've made a huge impact. And, I would say, Yeah, cut it if we didn't make the impact that we did, but we've made a huge impact. And you've got volunteers. So the money just pretty much goes towards them being spayed and neutered. It's not for people, it's not for the gas, it's not for feeding. The stuff that we put into it from the community, you're getting the benefit back out of that from the overall health of the community.
So we've struggled to keep people in volunteer positions for a while on Parks and Rec and different things. And we have not struggled with that with this CCAP program. Every single meeting, there are people there that, are willing to help. And to get people to do things that are actually physical to help is, well, and we did a great job of that. And I think we're about halfway to the goal. Because didn't you say, Todd, 700? And we're at least at 350. And by the end of the year, I think we'll hit 400. So we're certainly making progress. I don't think you can, if you cut the funding, I don't think you can say it's for lack of progress in this program, because we had it.
Is this year 2 or years 3?
I think it's 3. 1 at 21 or 2. But I think in that short amount of time, we've done a lot, and we've had other municipalities looking at our program as well, and even coming and questioning how we did it, how we got started, and so forth. Thank you.
I would like to see that do more to help itself be self-sustaining. I don't mind finding it, contributing. I think the value is huge. I agree. Can't go backwards on this. It will get better on its own. But I would like to see CCAP become self-sustaining. That's going to mean you guys creating fund drives and revenue generation for yourselves.
All right. Fire department. Where are we at there?
I'll throw out 20,000 to the department, 25,000 to the department, maybe, and increase to the firefighter tax rebate. Incentivize volunteers. Billy's right. We have a strong volunteer.
Right. My only concern there, and like I said, I don't know why I said that, because I would have to go back through and look at what the increase would be and what that fiscal impact would be. I just don't have that. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to get that number quickly. That's my only concern there.
The thing I look at when it comes to the fire company, is they're constantly replacing equipment at, hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars for one piece of equipment. So, and they never rarely comes on, shall I say, for support with that kind of work. So I think the fact that they're, using funding and their own initiatives to raise money to purchase new equipment,
I know there's
it's big,
self-funded initiatives.
I will tell you though, there is a lot of money out there right now for fire departments and for public safety. There is a ton of grants. People, they are throwing money at public safety.
So I would hold off on the tax change. Only because that has to be done to an ordinance anyway, correct?
What?
The tax rebate.
Yeah.
So we'll have to do that sometime anyway,
Mhm.
if we choose to do it.
Right.
Secondly, they asked for this increase for a purpose. So if we're going to give them an increase, I'd rather give it to them for the purpose than revisit the 111 again next year. Because in the meantime, we can look at our tax rates for the volunteers and do that.
So give them the 111, and if they have a specific need,
Well, I think they did come here with a specific need.
I don't remember what it was.
They wanted to buy a they have a plan to buy a fire truck in next year or 2 years from now.
All right, so increase it now.
Yeah, you turn it off.
Oh, no, that's okay. It's just my laptop is, if the battery won't hold a charge, so.
So with the fire equipment especially, Jake could probably answer this as well. A lot of times to have the vehicle engineered and designed is upfront money, plus the bill is money down as well. So even though they may be looking to replace their fire truck in 2 years, the costs are probably already or just about ready to start accumulating.
Just the way you-
Yeah, that's true.
There was a point in time, years back, when we escrowed funds. Specific footprint projects like you talked about. Say they want to buy a truck. And they ask for a $20,000 a year increase. You escrow that 20 every year, and then when they purchase the vehicle, that whatever it has accumulated goes to that. Could you put it in interest bearing investment? I don't know about that. But that way, you can ensure to your taxpayer that the money you're donating is going to that specific purpose.
I like that. Leave it at 110 or 111 and put the 25 or 40, whatever it was, aside. Not even put it aside, just hold it accountable for that.
In escrow, yeah. When you need it, here it is, as much of up to that 40,000.
Right. But again, that's gonna take some motions and consent to do that. So we leave the 111 where it's at for the budget.
All right.
So what are the changes put us at?
Historic Preservation Society is in, Mount Bethel is in, Library is in, Veterans Council is in, is CCAT in or out?
I suggest, yeah,
Cut
I
it to
agree
2?
with that. I suggest we lower it a bit so that they can begin to become self-sufficient.
That's what I was thinking.
All right, down to 3.
Yeah, just like thinking about that.
All right. Down to 3. Fireworks are in, correct? All right. So that leaves us at 8, with 8 mills, a transfer from fund balance of $1,161,398.
1,161.
398. With a 1 mil tax increase, it would be a transfer from a fund balance of 744,987.
So as you can see, the last 4 hours of this, 2, 3, 2 hours.
2 hours.
We've eliminated $10,000.
Yep.
Can you explain the reserve to me again?
Sort of like, this is the way I look at the reserve.
Yeah, I know about the checking account.
Yeah.
But when can we use it? Like, why can't, or can we only use so much a year?
No, we can use
And how much is in the reserves?
Now, there's a
about
threshold.
2.4.
About 2.4. And
Yeah,
that
there's
is
a
not
threshold
showing
we
up
have.
anywhere.
No, there's a threshold we have to maintain. And that is, Kelly, is it 15%? Yeah.
So that means 15% of that amount has to
15
stay. We can't use.
15% of the expenditures, of the yearly expenditures. So,
That's easy enough.
yeah, we're at expenditures of 8.3.
What is it?
About 12:45.
Okay, are you talking about 124?
Do it.
1,246,757.
Okay, so we're allowed to take
Down to
that
level.
much out of the reserves?
No,
No.
it has to stay at 1.24.
And then how much is there?
2.4,
So we could technically take $1 million
yes,
out of the reserves?
yes. But then there's nothing left. Then next year,
But
then
aren't,
we have to balance it. We would have to raise it.
but aren't the reserves for this purpose? For
The
when we
reserves
get,
are for this purpose, therefore, you have an unexpected,
Yeah, let's say we have a super snowstorm. That costs $500,000 to clean up. Or bad weather, let's just say. It's additional 500,000 over the budget. Those reserves are there for that reason. Because it's not budgeted for it. But I don't think we should be ever at the bottom of the reserve either.
I don't either. Yes.
So I'm really new to this whole budget thing and the whole community thing, so this may be a really stupid question. But since we have such a high tax rate compared to other communities in the area, right? How are they bringing in more revenue? I'm thinking, from what I'm hearing, the only way we're going to get out of this is bringing more revenue in. Is that,
That's correct.
what are they doing revenue in? And it's because we're landlocked, basically, the size we are is larger, so.
They make places and Borough Township, all these farms. As soon as one farm sells to development, becomes a development, that all quadruples their income. But yet, we don't have that luxury.
And not,
Shopping centers.
So it's because of our size.
And the
It's basically
businesses,
the problem.
right.
all the
We're
businesses.
landlocked. And not only that, I mean, our value, our home values are significantly lower than, like, Manheim Township. 1 mil in Manheim Township brings in $4.4 million. 1 mil for us brings in 438,000.
But you gotta say, look at the business, we have good businesses in town, but
Right.
the number of businesses that we have compared to like West Hempfield town.
Well, I'm not talking.
No, I'm just saying, it's way lower than that.
I'm not
And your
talking-
taxes on businesses are much higher than they are.
I'm not talking commercial, I'm talking industry. We have two major industries in Columbia, right? Anvil or ASC and, whatever it is now. Yeah. So any other municipality around here has multiple industries like that. We just don't have it.
Which is where McGinnis comes in and trying to attract those higher paying jobs as opposed to, I mean, yes, we have a lot of small businesses, but the difference between like those factory jobs and the small businesses, the income that is being earned in those small businesses, the pay rate is lower, things like that. That's why McGinnis is important to bring in the higher paying jobs, the higher appraised value of the land and things like that.
You know what she's talking about when she says McGinnis?
Mm-mm.
The airport property,
Building
a business park, innovation park.
innovation park. like
Okay.
industrial.
Yeah.
Okay.
To attract businesses to create more revenue to help solve this problem.
So
You-
land is the only way out of the situ.
Or Sky.
Yep.
Yeah. So the other issue that we're facing, unlike most municipalities around here, is we have our own school district, which charges taxes on itself. We have our own police force that happens to be like the second or third busiest in the county, and that's second to the city.
Hopefully we can get that problem fixed soon, right?
We
I
have,
mean,
we
not
have,
with the police, but with the problems that the police are handling.
Busyness.
Right,
Yes,
but
yeah.
my point is, all these things go into it. If we were a one red light town, we wouldn't need the police force that we need. We wouldn't have the school district that we have, you know?
So we're too small, but we're too big in other ways.
We're a major city in a
We're
small
just
borough.
at the wrong size for us to be successful. But there's got to be other communities this size that are not, that are figuring it out, right? I mean,
well, I just looked at.
I'm assuming you guys have looked
at.
into that, so I guess that's the
Yeah, I mean,
question. What
I
have you
was
looked
just
into
looking
for
at a
that?
thing earlier, municipality, they're a little bit bigger in size than we are, but about half the population of us, and their millage for next year is 36 mills. What was it?
That includes the school and.
No,
No.
no, that was municipal.
Is this in Lancaster County?
No, it's not. It's out by Pittsburgh. But yeah, so I mean, we are not alone in this. I mean, but in Lancaster County, we are the only municipality that has the same municipal and school district boundaries.
I really respect what you said earlier, the lesson you learned from the EDC meeting. You know, I'm convinced, I'm a believer, that if you have the amenities that people want, if you have the opportunities that people want, if you have the safety factor that people want, if you have school district results that people want, I think people will pay whatever it takes to get here. And that's why I think the investment in our outdoor spaces, in our business opportunities, McGinnis, and other opportunities around here, being very aware of what this kind of transient, perhaps, demographic wants and needs to get them here is very important. I don't want that to be lost on anybody. You know, we need to take care of the assets that are draws. But we also have to kid chins out on the quality of service that we provide for the residents here either. I think we've been really trying to balance that over the last bunch of years, being very cognizant of the investment we make in the downtown and the borough in general.
So are there groups or whatever that are trying to look out where the best places are to invest in the community to
Yes.
attract those people?
We actually have our own
EDC.
economic development committee in Columbia.
Okay. And is
So
that, like, how do you get involved in that?
you have to reach out to, they have a website, the
Do they?
CEDC.
Okay.
CEDC.
I mean, it seems that that's really going to be the only way we can rescue this community is by figuring out how to
Look
get
up
more revenue.
discovercolumbia.com.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, back to the taxes.
Yep.
If we can only take out $1.1 million out of reserves, that means we're at least 600,000 over. So 1 mil increase won't cover it.
1 mil puts us at a transfer from the fund balance of 744,987.
Well, hold on a second. Even though there's 2.4 million in there, you have to keep
1.2.
1.2. So you can, your from reserves can only be 1.2 max.
Doing the 744, you leave roughly 500,000 as a real cushion, you know what I mean?
That's,
Not a cushion, but
it's not a cushion, because next year, then you're in this exact same situation again. And that's what I'm saying, we need to get to the point where we're putting money aside.
We do.
Prepare for that.
Yep.
And I'm okay this year. If you guys want us to break it out and say we'll do 1-1-1 or whatever, or 1-2-2, or it'll probably end up being 1-2-3. But the reality of it is,
We can't, it's not sustainable.
no, it's not.
What's the next assessment?
2 years.
2 years, but you have to figure, it's not gonna help us for like 4 years. Because then the other thing you have to think is, so they have the mass reassessment. Well, the last time that we had the mass reassessment, a quarter of the people in Columbia appealed their reassessment and won. So we ended up losing money.
Yep.
We dropped tax money. We dropped tax revenue.
But we didn't take the percentage we were allowed to take.
Right.
On the increase.
It could have went higher, yeah, I agree.
When you have a reassessment, you can take a certain percentage increase, and the borough opted not to take the increase. So by not taking the increase, and then with the reassessment appeals, we lost money. If we would have took the increase we were allowed, the assessment and the appeals, we probably would have broke even. The analogy I have, again, I talked to the chief about this, don't take this to heart, but this is a comparison. I talked to the chief about this, I talked to Steve. A mill is like $438,000, okay? You can lay off all the public works department and not raise that mill, or you can lay off 4 to 5 officers, so you have 2 officers on the street, or you can raise the taxes a mill. What do you do?
That's what I mean.
Take your pick.
Right, that's.
Take your pick.
But that
To
only-
me, it's a no-brainer. Without the people, nothing's getting done in the borough. Without the officers, it's gonna be like the Wild Wild West. So you gotta look at, increasing that, as much as I hate to say it, for 23 years, I said I would not sign that stuff, and I did it. But every now and then you come to the end of the road.
That's a little hypothetically speaking, you have 22 police officers in this township.
No, we don't.
No,
19.
And you're looking to hire one.
none,
Someone said there was 22.
Can you come to the microphone, Paul?
Yeah, I know someone said there was 22 police officers total.
No,
19.
there's 19.
19.
Our goal is 21.
The goal is
21.
21, and that's where we were told.
For such a small municipality.
Yes, because we have, our per capita call volume is greater than 1, which is
Like
the
what,
highest in the
what
county.
type of situations are you dealing with? What type of calls are you getting?
Very serious.
Very serious?
Yes.
Okay.
and the majority of calls are quality of life.
And here's the other point too, sir. We are hiring officers in order to replace your anticipating retirements.
Okay.
We have 4 in the drop right now.
Mhm.
So they can leave in the next 2 years. So we need to get ahead of, because it's so difficult to hire people, recruit, hire, retain people.
Why is that?
It's very challenging across the board, not just within Columbia.
Well, we're talking about Columbia.
No, what I'm
We're not
saying to
talking
you-
about other
What I'm
municipalities.
saying to you, sir, are every police agency is having difficulty hiring people.
But why is that?
No one wants to be a police officer.
Okay. Okay. Why doesn't anyone want to be a police officer anymore?
Because it's
Because
very
they get
challenging.
sued. They're always getting sued, and this and that, and everything else. It's the-
You guys wear body cams?
Yes,
Okay. All the time? You're wearing body cams all the time? Okay.
We have cameras in the cars.
Okay.
We have community cameras.
So you're getting sued? You've been sued a few times here in the last year, last 5 years, 10 years?
we have not.
We haven't had any
No,
cases.
There was one,
Yeah.
one case, but no, in general, police are nationwide, people are getting sued. No one wants to be a police officer because of, defund the police movement and
I'm not for defunding the police.
the way
I'm just
that-
wondering why we
But
need
yeah,
12.
that's why, because in society, society has made it very difficult for people to want to be police officers. Police are the bad
You
guys.
can talk to anyone in the position of authority. I just had a meeting today with the school superintendent. Teachers, police officers, anyone that's in a position of authority is being challenged today. It's very difficult.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
There's a lack of respect.
But going to those numbers, as the chief said, we want to go up to 21, but then we anticipate dropping back down again because of the people that are retiring.
Okay.
And the benefit to us is going to be, we're going to get some young officers, okay? But also, they'll be at the lower end of the pay scale versus the ones that are retiring. So there's going to be a savings in changing that personnel. And that savings will be pretty good.
Okay.
Your question, the number of officers we have.
Yeah. Yeah, for such a small municipality, I mean, it's very, very busy, huh?
Very busy.
Well, yet when I call sometimes about a misparked vehicle or something, it takes a while for an officer to get there.
That's why we're busy.
Because they're on, well, we're on Route 30 every day.
On Route 30 every day?
Every day with a wreck. Practically every day with a wreck. Takes a couple officers out there every day, sometimes hours.
Well, you need to figure out why you're having so many wrecks out there.
Well.
Talk to PennDOT.
State police should be doing it and talk to PennDOT.
Yeah. Okay.
We had a police vehicle demolished out there.
Well,
Okay.
can you say and spell your last name for the record, please?
Spell my last name?
Yes, just for the record, because we're taking the minutes.
What's that?
We're taking minutes, so we want to make sure we capture everyone's name.
Spell my last name.
Yes, please.
Budesheim.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're all whispering. I'm like, I'll just ask him. Thank you. All right. One. That's all right. I misspell a lot of stuff. Are we, okay, so we need to decide what the millage will be. And if we are at the point where we feel we can vote to advertise this next Tuesday. And if we do, I can prepare it for the meeting next Tuesday.
Here's what we do. There's revenue going to be generated in the future. We know that. The hotel coming, hopefully, hoping breaks ground soon. We can put everything behind.
That property is in a cause, so we are not going to see any tax revenue from that for 8 years.
But we will gain some EIT.
Yeah, we will gain some E
Yeah,
EIT.
this is going to be popping, hopefully.
You're not going to see anything.
No, I think you're looking at 2 this year. Because you can't use up that reserve fund. You can't use up that reserve fund.
Is this transfer from fund balance, is that reserve?
Yes,
And you're saying the 2.4 million is after this is taken off?
no, that's what it is right now.
What it is right now, and
Yes.
then when this is transferred, it'll go down.
Yes. Now, or just remember, the transfer doesn't happen until the end of the year. So that's why the current year to date, it's not there, because we don't, that happens at the end of the year when the year is closed out. Once we see how much expenditures were over revenue, that line is added in there to balance it out. So, I mean, it is, the last 4 years, we have done really well in not transferring any from the fund balance, even though we had anticipated transferring. Several of those years, we actually put money back into the fund balance. However, This year, I felt it was important that we have an accurate budget, and so I made it as accurate as possible so that we're not saying, oh, well, every year we transfer, we don't take that money out. You know, I don't want to overinflate it just so we can look good at and feel good about ourselves at the end of the year. We need it to be accurate. So, hence, exactly. I mean, you know, I don't want to get into that. Oh, well, it's October. We have money left in our budget, so let's order blah, 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 blah. No, we're not going to. Eric said to me, this is pretty tight. I said, Eric, I want it to be tight because if they're going to go over budget, I want to be able to come into a meeting and have a manager say, here's my justification why I have to go over budget on this.
So one bill gets us 2 years, basically.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Inflation is going to occur, you can't stop that. Cost of
Correct.
Services are going to go up for us.
Correct.
It's cheaper for us.
Right.
We still have to maintain the quality of service we,
Right.
residents deserve. Can't chintz out on that either. So if you go 2 mills,
That basically buys you another year.
Mhm.
2 mills buys you another year.
Yep.
Hopefully some of these revenue generating things will pop for us that balance, and maybe we'll come up with some other ideas.
When do you anticipate for the Guinness Airfield to start producing money or whatever have you?
We anticipate it being completed in 26. So we should start realizing tax revenue in 27. Because I'll be honest with you, once it's done, once the infrastructure's in, it is not going to last in our hands very long at all. We already have people vying to purchase it.
What exactly do you want to put out there again, or what's going out there?
An industrial park.
In an innovation park, it's like a light industrial park.
Okay.
Think of like a green field, a mini green field.
Somebody was saying something about a drone manufacturing plant.
Yep, we're in discussions with a drone firm.
What size drones are you talking about?
We're not talking no, well, the little things, but particularly the bigger ones.
Like military size?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smaller than military size, but yeah,
That's what
it could be,
We're
yeah.
talking about.
Okay.
Delivering packages.
Delivery size.
Delivery size, delivering packages.
Delivery packages.
Mhm.
Just like flying overhead and dropping.
No, this would be more like,
Yeah, they're gonna come, Amazon's gonna be flinging them at your door.
like medical transport, like, you know,
Okay.
organs or something like that.
Okay. And this is definitely gonna come to fruition.
The industrial park will.
The industrial park will, yes.
It's in motion.
It's in motion.
It can't come quick enough.
So we should be looking at breaking ground there in the spring. That's what we're actually looking to start this coming year in 2025. I am fending off phone calls of people that are interested in purchasing.
Okay.
Yes.
So I've actually deferred on, can't really talk about it yet until we get closer to breaking ground.
Can we also, like, for the record, our investment in that project does not come out of the general fund.
No, it came out of capital and it was put back into
I just
capital.
want to make that clear.
Yes,
That project is not affecting our general fund.
no. And we've also said that when we purchase it, we will be made whole, at least. We will not be just break. The goal is to not break even. It is to get extra to put back in our capital fund.
So what was the goal anyway? To buy it, to develop it, and
Yes,
then to turn around and sell it?
yes.
And then collect tax dollars.
And collect tax dollars.
That exist there.
Right. And the thought is, like we said, that property was only generating about $4,000 in taxes
It's farmland.
as farmland. Well, there is no house on the property right now.
There isn't no house.
No, it's gone.
Gone? Okay, someone picked it up and moved it?
No, it was demolished.
Oh.
It was demoed.
Okay.
Yeah, it needed,
Literally just.
that's another house.
That's another house.
Yeah, we're still working on that one.
That is on the same property?
It's,
on-
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Ninth and Franklin.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah, we're still attempting to move that one, however, there's gonna be a, drop dead like April first, it's either gonna be moved or redemolished. Yes. Okay, so we're doing everything we can in the meantime to hopefully save it and relocate it. Right, but if that doesn't happen, it's not gonna stop the prior project.
yeah, because just for perspective here, if we're looking to put the total investment of improvements on that property is $10 million, it's going to appraise for at least $10 million. Whatever our tax millage is, owing $10 million, that's our annual tax income.
So you're gonna sell it, you're gonna make a profit from the sale, and then you're gonna generate tax from the business tax there.
Right, what you should do.
Okay. Help solve this problem.
To help solve this problem. So what's 8 or 9 or 10
You
mils?
don't need to raise the taxes. You don't need to- Wouldn't it be great if that project is so successful, we could lower taxes?
Yes, I know. I mean, that's the goal, is that
Right?
the project is successful and we can lower the taxes.
There's a lot of faith in that. Put faith in something, I guess.
Yep, we do. I mean, the last thing I want to do is raise taxes. I mean, all my family that lives here, that lives in town, they're all retired, they're all on a fixed income, and the decisions I make sitting here are going to hit them hard too. The last thing I want is for, to have to worry about if my parents are going to be able to keep their house or not. But at the same time, there's a whole community that, what, do we run it into the ground and then make the state come in and take over? Because if the state comes in and takes over, this is what's going to happen. Your local police department is going to be gone, and they're going to say you're going to have state police. And if the state police is our only coverage, you know what's going to happen? All these quality of life calls, no one's going to respond to them. No one's going to respond. You have a problem with your neighbor because they're being loud, no one's coming. That's what happens if the state police come in. And if the state takes over, that's what happens. So we have to solve this.
It takes years to just can't wave a wand and fix it.
Exactly.
Make a quick, simple little change. Nip in the tuck.
I mean, 4 years ago, when I first ran for council, I said, we were holding the line on taxes, and for 4 years, we have chipped away at this budget and gotten as much out of it as we could. Like I said, 3 years, we put money back into the reserves by scrimping and saving and saying no to these different expenditures. No, we're not doing this. No, we're not doing this. We're skinny. Now, I mean, we had almost a 20% increase in costs, yet we still managed to take 5% out of the budget because of cutting things. There's no more to cut.
Aren't you looking at raising, street sweeping tickets?
That was one of the things we talked about with the,
But that's not a revenue generator.
that's not a revenue generator.
That is something that's, they're looking at doing. Does that affect the revenue? Maybe a little bit. The reason we're doing that is to get people to move their cars, because the streets need to be clean. We have obligations that we need to meet with the river, called MS4 stuff, right? You knows all about it. But, yeah, that's the only reason we're raising the ticket prices, get people to abide.
Right. Yeah, Frank. And I'm sorry, I should have told you to go to the microphone.
Somebody else had me, so that's okay.
Frank, go ahead.
Can I assume the reserve fund is the same as the capital fund?
No,
No, what's the difference? I mean,
the capital fund is the
for
capital
capital
fund.
projects, what's the reserve?
The reserve is just the excess money in, from the general fund.
For emergencies.
Yeah, it's kind of like yeah,
Think of it as a savings.
yeah.
Frank, the only,
Emergencies, but also you have to keep that 15%.
the only place you see the reserve is at audit time. We don't show it anywhere on here.
Right.
Okay,
None of the funds show it.
No.
okay, back to, apparently we interjected the capital fund within
I know,
the
yeah,
whole
we
meeting.
did. Yeah, I know. I was
But
trying
let's
not
go
to.
back and talk more about the McGinnis. My understanding, it's been for sale for a while before the borough bought it. There was outfits like Clean Right wanted to purchase it, but, and I know the McGinnis is good. I know the Litch name was involved with that puzzle. They didn't want nothing to do with it. So nobody would come in and buy it. Nobody else. I wanted the public to buy it, not the municipality. But anyway, the borough ended up buying it. What bothered me is we have nobody on the board that's been in that kind of deal through the year. And just looking at you, you're not bred that way. You don't have that education to do that. What says, once we pour all this money in there, that we're going to get that money out of it? Who's going to make that decision, what these parcels are worth, or whatever?
The Lancaster EDC has been our financial partner, and John B. Miller has been very, very involved with all of this. And while we're talking about the McGinnis property, I don't know if anyone has followed it or not, but Governor Shapiro signed an executive order just yesterday, I think it was, or 2 days ago, basically saying we need to streamline our permitting process and cut down on this time. So that 18 months, we might actually see a reduction in that because the governor is saying we need to streamline our permitting process because Pennsylvania is lagging behind other states because it takes developers too long to get moving. So.
Okay, and a lot of the borough buying this isn't the idea of making a profit right away. If this works, which nobody can guarantee it, if this works, it's going to be for the future of Columbia. It won't help me no way. I will see nothing come out of this, but it will help the future, will help the people that's moving to Columbia to maybe have a better life with cheaper taxes and whatever. I'm still up in the air on it. I just, when I hear some of the engineer's fees, the lawyer's fees,
Development and cheap, Frank, but
no.
you know, we're going to be made whole.
Down the road, I hope somebody can say, here's a figure of what it cost us to do this.
We absolutely will be able to do that because we have to account for every dollar that is spent. We have quarterly reports that we have to file with the state to account for all of that money that's been given to us and that we're getting in grants and loans. We have all of those figures. Like I said, we have to file the reports. We file the reports and we're going to have to keep filing the reports until the project's done.
Okay, and where we're at right now happens with the person.
We're waiting on permits.
We're waiting on permits.
And then
Once we get the permit, at that point, we are going to be able to start the soil stabilization process, which should start in the spring.
April-ish.
April 1st-ish. And that should be. While that's happening, we are finalizing the site subdivision and land development plan through County Planning Commission, Columbia Planning Commission, and approved by Columbia Borough. At that point, we can apply for the next round of MPDES permits through the DEP. Once that's received, then we can start putting in the infrastructure, which includes the stormwater, roads, all of that stuff. And we'll have pad sites ready to go for businesses.
Okay, so that's what you're selling. You're not selling the building. There's not going to be buildings on it.
No, we're not building buildings. We are selling an open space.
Would it not be wise to, when you get to that point, to offer that for sale as a whole?
Yes, that's part of it, that's what John B. Miller, that's what the Lancaster EDC's been doing for us, is, keeping track of, is it better to sell it as a whole? Do we have people that want individual pieces? That's once we get to the point that we know what the site plan looks like and how much, exactly what parts we have to
Yeah,
to
and
sell.
how much we have in it to see what kind of value we can put on it
Yes,
and get our money out of it and let these
Yes.
other people go through all the permitting and all that other
Yes.
crap that comes before the.
but it absolutely, if we try and sell it before we have the infrastructure in, before we have the roads and the stormwater and all of that stuff done, it is not, the cost per acre is too high. We need to use the grant in order to make the cost per acre where a developer is able to take it on.
Do we have a cost, what all those for costs to the end to get it done? Do we
It's
have a-
about 10 million, round number, it's about 10 million, and that's,
I
we
would
have the
hope,
money.
I would hope it only stops at that.
I hope so too.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you filled me in on that. And as a favor to me, the next budget you do, would you please number the pages? This fell on my floor off my truck.
Sorry.
I read it and I'm lost.
Sorry, Frank. I will try and do that for next time.
I appreciate that very much.
Thank you for that, Frank. I'm the same way.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just did print the PDF and I was like, I'm done.
Where do I go from here? Thank you.
All right. So, which column are we using? 8, 9, 10?
We're not voting, right?
No, we're not voting, but I need to know so that I can prepare the advertisement.
So, okay.
Last time I went through this, the council person, created like an equation to help people understand exactly what the effect was going to be based on the assessed value of their property per mil. Do they have anything like that? Is there-
0.001.
0.001 times.
I think it was something like it came out that the property was assessed at $80,000, it came out to about $12 a month.
80.
So is that still an equation you can put out there, a number that would help people to understand? Because if we go 2 mils, now we're saying if you're at 80,000, that's 20. You have to budget for. I think it's important for people to be able to visualize and contextualize
Right.
the effect. A mill means nothing to most people.
Yeah, I mean, if you could put that together for the next meeting, that would be great. Because as I'm trying to put everything else together, like. And.
Yourself right into it.
Yeah, I mean, whatever anyone can put together is great. I mean, I got two pie charts and I thought I was doing great. I literally, this weekend, I was about 17 hours between the 2 days. So, which column are we doing?
Can we go in the middle and do it 1.5?
We could.
We can this year. But there's absolutely no money left.
our investments kick in.
Mhm.
Revenue generators kick in.
I don't think you should hit the residents hard. It's easier to make installments than it is to make one income payment.
I wonder if it would,
When time comes, you can always reduce it. By year. And that says you can't reduce the tax. This is what the time goes on.
Next year. And then it's not 1 mil. That's what I'm saying. That's the whole problem.
Then you're at 3. I don't see any huge revenue generators happening next year. That's not.
do you think we would benefit, there's been a lot of suggestions as to things that we can look at that would generate revenue or cut expenses. And suggestions are made and, yeah, that's a good idea, but nobody acts on them or considers them past that particular meeting. Do you think we would benefit, along with raising, a mill or 2 mills, to also create a focus group that would take all of these ideas and look at where can we generate income, like at Columbia Crossing? Where can we cut expenses? And, just a group of targeted individuals that could take that on. And I don't know, is that funny? I don't know. I think it's a good idea.
Right. To say raise revenue is kind of a misnomer because the only way we can legally raise money is through property tax. The revenue, other sources of revenue have to go to offset a certain service we are providing. Like codes. We charge a rental registration to cover the cost of our administrative work on the codes.
But I mean, like, how could we, like, I brought that up last time, that we have all this expense at Columbia Crossing, but we don't generate any income. Is there an innovative idea out there of how we can make money from Columbia Crossings?
When you say all this expense, what are you talking about?
Well, how much does it cost us to keep it?
147.
But we're getting 75,000. You get that from the cell tower and from.
We're gonna get that revenue. What if we got rid of the $140,000? But that.
No, you can't, because if you get rid of that expense, you get rid of the revenue, because that was the whole point of Laxwama giving us the money. And the whole point of the cell tower is to put that money into Columbia Crossing.
Not get rid of the expense, but how could we make money? We don't make any money from that, other than,
Yes, it is.
Contract. They're making the money or would be paying more.
Right.
I think that's, what is it, after the contract, after the bank
Yeah, I mean, we do make some revenue from rentals of the what's it called, the pavilion, and from the kayak people. We make some, like any rents that are charged on the property, we do those rewards.
mm-hmm.
So
Not
Sharon?
very much.
No, it's not.
Former Councilman Jim Smith had suggested asking other municipalities along the trail if they would contribute to the cost of operating that building. And I don't think it went anywhere, but that's just another thought. So.
No, the other municipalities are trying to, are investing money into the trail itself to get people onto the trail and everything else. So they're making investments in their own municipality.
In their own sections.
Right.
But this is the hub, right? And I don't think any of them have a building like that to maintain and a staff. So I would think it would cost more, but
I know
thank
we
you.
did talk to one particular borough and it was a big no.
Okay.
I went to
They're
their
building
council.
pavilions, they're building, we didn't pay for the trail. They did.
But my point is, they're not maintaining a building, they're not paying the staff a building. They might, if they're building a pavilion or a restroom or something, yeah, maybe they are, but I don't think that comes to what and if we're the hub of it, I don't know. Thank you.
And I struggle to figure out what service we would say we provide that justifies the revenue. Well, because we have to, like codes, the fees we're charging have to cover the expense of that. I guess, I don't know, it's late and just ignore me.
But the thought process is, all the youth activities and programs that they produce that provide those recreation and education possibilities for Columbia Borough and surrounding area kids, snowmobile, the ranger thing, ranger time, and some of the other programs that they have. They always have them programs all year long for these kids. That's like having a park that we all dream of.
Yep.
A park where they have a playground that's staffed. That's what that is. And we're paying that, and we're helping to pay that staff.
Yep.
You know, those things are going on there all the time. So without that, that needs a void.
Yeah.
That needs a void in this community.
Well, and not only that, we're actually getting more value out of that than what we're paying in, because they end up getting grants and other things to put on programs that aren't covered by what we're paying.
Oh, look at the bicycles in Kingford, look at the bicycles at the in Kennel Works and things like that. You're seeing that, and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, look how fast apartments over here fill up. And it was because of those kind of, someone mentioned earlier, like outdoor recreation is big money.
It is.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we stop Columbia Crossing if they do benefit the community. But I'm just suggesting that there might be a whole lot, this is a community issue, and there might be a whole lot of ideas among community members of how we can generate more income or eliminate or decrease some of the expenses.
As she said earlier, if you generate revenue, it needs to be directed towards a particular thing. It's not like we can generate revenue, create profit, and help balance the budget. If you generate revenue, it's got to go towards a service that we're providing. It can't be more than that.
Which would help the general fund, right? Because
Ultimately,
we wouldn't
yes.
have to pay, we wouldn't have to
Yeah,
put so much in that.
Yeah. No, I am all for it.
I think then
It's just,
raising the taxes and it also communicates to the resident that we're taking this seriously and we want solutions.
Mhm.
And
I just-
raising taxes isn't just the only solution.
It is the only solution.
it is the only solution,
That's
and
all you can do.
You talk for 3 hours tonight, you save $10,000.
I know.
Even if we gave that building away, didn't do anything with that building, no expense at all, it's only $140,000.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Oh, there's nothing wrong with that, Frank. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I do want to say this budget, you look at other municipalities, you don't.
Oh.
It is detailed.
It is. It is extremely detailed. Like you said, you look at other municipalities and they say, here's our expenses, here's our revenues, and that's it. What's in it is anybody's guess.
Yeah. You did a good job, Heather.
I mean, I hate to say, it. I don't want to be the one to say it, but I will. It's gotta be 2% this year, 2% next year. Or 2 mils this year, 2 mils next year. I mean, there's just no way around it.
Awful thing to say.
Yeah.
I,
Pay it too.
I know, I gotta pay it too. So does all my family that's on fixed incomes.
I just don't know what else to do. I mean, I do know what else to do. We're just not there yet.
I want to see some numbers on the impact. You were talking about.
What impact?
What's it gonna cost someone that's assessed at $100,000?
Oh,
You said $100,000 around ballpark figure. How much is 1 mil going to cost them?
It's $100 a year.
2 mil going to cost them?
It's $100 a year.
year.
Those is $200 a year. So divide that by 12, 1667 a month.
We'll confirm all that. We'll come with the.
It's 0.1.
Can't do that.
It's just moving a decimal point, Todd. Yeah, Todd, you come up with your marketing chart thing, okay? You do your pretty thing and, yeah, and Eric and I will do the money thing. So,
No,
I hate to say it too. I was hoping to do one, but that's why I put all the different columns on here so that everyone could see the impact on the fund balance for each proposal. And as much as I did not want to say two, it has to be two. It would be, you just said it, it would be irresponsible not to.
that's what I've been saying.
Yep.
And
It'd be trying to manage feelings versus.
here's the other thing. Understand that 2 million doesn't fix the, or 2 mils do not fix the problem.
No, it does not.
It just delays it.
Yep. Yes, Sharon.
One last thing, I think it's really critical that all of you who are determining what this increase will be, understand exactly in dollars and cents what that means to each family, each house. Because 100,000, my understanding, if your home's assessed at 100,000 at 8 mils, you're paying 800 in municipal tax.
We're paying that
I
already.
believe that's correct.
Yes.
We're paying that already then.
Yes. And what I'm saying then, you need to understand that's going to go up by, if it stays at 100,000, the assessed value, then you're going to pay an extra mil is going to be an extra 100 on that house. But if your home's assessed at 200,000, then you're going to do 200 more, or however that. Yeah, I think you need to really understand, because in order to get the impact that that's having on families, because then come next spring, we're going to have to come up with that when we write the check. That's enough for like an electric bill for me, or my UGI bill, maybe both depending, or a grocery bill. I mean, it means a lot. We're on fixed income now. I don't want to have to get a part-time job just to pay my taxes in Columbia.
Do you have any other suggestions?
Not now. I gave some tonight though, because I didn't want to come here and not give any suggestions. Plus, when I was seated up there, I tried to give a few last fall. Like I said, that was not well received. But I don't have all the answers, but I think you guys need to know exactly in dollars and cents what you're asking families to put on the table. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what you just said, Sharon, is how I explain it to people too. Think of it as just like, this is just like another, we're in the same thing. We're in a fixed income, what we have coming in. But guess what? Our gas prices are going up just like yours are going up. Our natural gas, our gasoline, insurances, maintenance, everything is going up for you. It's going up for the borough and probably a lot more. So nobody likes it, but got to be responsible too.
Wait till you acknowledge me.
Oh, go ahead, Frank.
Okay.
I'm like giving you the thumbs up.
What yous are doing has a big impact on the borough. But you all need to go to the school board meeting tomorrow night and see what they are proposing up there and see what might be coming up there. 1 mil here might not be nothing compared to what they're proposing up there. I wish, for your own sake, that you would go to the meeting and just to listen and find out why they're doing what they're doing. So it's
Are
just,
you saying they're positive up there?
beg your
No,
pardon.
no. Thank you for that, Frank.
I don't,
I feel the same way.
but I don't understand what Frank, I don't understand what you're saying.
Just what I said. When we thought this was bad, they said, hold my beer.
Yeah, and what they're doing does nothing for the students. It's for the, I don't know, staff, or, I don't know, is the teachers involved?
Yeah, $500,000 plus the
Yes.
teacher's got to pay.
They already have health insurance, they can go to any facility they want to go to, but they want to do this online. I wanted to say something while Rock was here. That's our big moneymaker. That's
That's the killer. I was
sure, yeah.
I know, I wasn't saying it either, because
I did that one. $535,000 for healthcare.
And once,
just for employees.
If they get through our zone.
once the
for
medical
employees.
facility gets their teeth into it, you don't know what it's going to be down the road.
Absolutely.
They got a hospital. Why they weren't-
2 blocks
why
away.
they weren't put into a tax-free facility.
All right. So am I putting it in at 2? I know, Barb, I
I
know.
just don't know if I'll vote for that. At this point, I don't know if I'll vote for 2. But you can put it in.
See what vote comes out.
I might go with 1.5.
It doesn't, okay.
I know what you're saying. I know.
I know it doesn't.
But it can be 6-1.
No, and
I mean, if we want to feel good.
it has to, it's gonna have to go around twice, Leo.
When I come into this meeting tonight, in my mind, I would sign an ordinance for 1 million. Right now, I'm debating, should I sign an ordinance for 2 million? Because I heard and I saw what you all are proposing, what you came up with. It's like, okay, I make a big stink out of 1 mil and talk everybody into a mil. And next year, we're back,
Doing the same thing.
whoever's here, we're back here talking the same talk, walking the same walk.
That's with 2 mills.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm a firm believer in trying to do better. Steve and I talked today, and y'all hit pretty much on it. Council needs to plan out, or the borough, everybody needs to plan out over the next 5 years, where you're going to go till you get into that situation where either the climate changes, that things get cheaper, you get more revenue, or you've built up enough that you can slow down. Build up enough reserve till you, and cover the budget to slow down. But you're almost gonna have to set a plan. It might be 2, 2, 2, 2, I don't know. It might be 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, whatever. But this isn't a 1-year thing. And nothing says, once you set that plan up,
That it doesn't change midstream.
right, that it doesn't change midstream. You might plan 2, 1, 1, 1, and all of a sudden you see that, okay, things changed, costs came down and everything else. Okay, I don't need a half or whatever have you. And then you start, but you gotta project that out and let everybody know this is where we're heading. And this is what we gotta do. This is the road. Eric's been talking this the whole time. We've been talking about budgets. We all been talking about budgets. You guys make the decisions.
I think for so long, we've been playing chicken with the school district.
How
Who's
long?
gonna raise taxes first? And I'm sick of this game with, the school says, oh, we've done this, and we've done it without doing this, and we've done this, and, then we say, well, we're not raising taxes because of this, and we've put ourselves in a bad situation, and we need to just be responsible and do the right thing.
I can't justify what's happening there. I can't justify it.
No, me neither, but
And I would take words that Frank said, get a hold of the Lancaster newspaper and read the minutes of what's gonna happen. I just can't believe it. But the truth of the matter is, and I've been around a long time, and I'm getting tired of playing games.
me too.
The truth of the matter is, we're getting banged 3-1
Mhm.
on the worst school district in the county. I have a problem with that.
Wow.
All right, I'm going to,
Sharon, one question I forgot to ask, and I had it on my mind. Did we get rid of all of our COVID money?
Yes.
well, we will at the end of this year, yes,
Where will that be going?
into the general fund. It'll reduce the money from reserves this year.
Am I correct? We could have used that towards the taxes. It's my understanding that's what the school board did last year, why we didn't get a tax increase, because they used the money out of the COVID to balance their
Yeah,
budget.
that's what we're doing.
Oh, okay,
That's what we're doing.
okay.
Maybe you can get it next year.
We think 27, but we're not sure. 27 is going to be a big year.
Yeah, it's up to the commissioners.
Yeah, it's up to the county commissioners. All right,
I'll sign it for sure.
okay. I will put this on to advertise, and I'll have the final numbers in the packet for Tuesday. Huh?
Thank you, Heather. We're all working.
No, I know we didn't, but I'm saying I'm finishing out the general fund here. And then we will also have to do an ordinance. So I have that started. 2 mills. That still has us taken from reserve at 328,576,000. All right. I was like an acid skin peel there. All right, so Fund 18. I didn't change anything on any of these other funds. Does anyone, did anyone have anything on Fund 18?
No, honestly, I didn't see any other funds.
I mean, they're pretty much,
Yeah, Jake reviewed it already, all right?
Grants in, grants out.
You went through it.
yeah, money in, money out. Fund 21, which is, 21 is ARPA, right?
Yeah, ARPA, yeah.
21's ARPA, and that's going away, but I had to show it because it's still technically there, but it'll be closed out.
Bless you. Thank you.
Fund 30.
That's right. P.
Hang on, I'm trying to, that's the bond capital. right?
Yeah.
That's the Wall Street project.
Yep, the Walnut Street project is in there, and that is gonna be hanging out there. We're not gonna be able to start on that next year, I don't think. I think that's gonna end up being 26. And it's likely going to cost more than original because of the cost of everything has gone up. But there will be a way to get extra money to account for the increased cost. Again, we're not paying for any of we paid for the engineering, we're not paying for any of the construction on that one. Anything else? And then Fund 35, that's pretty, it is what it is. Huh?
Oh, regulated.
Yeah, it's all regulated. We can only spend that money on so much. And Jake, did I have the numbers in there right for the things for next year on that one? Yeah. Yeah, it was just the, I mean, most of it just stayed the same. The CDBG is the same. street improvements, like all that, we're good there. Okay, and we do have your hook lift truck in there. Because we can use liquid fuels for the purchase of equipment, right? So, yeah. All right. These will all be added into the thing for Tuesday. I will make sure that it's all in the packet. We can, if we vote to advertise on Tuesday, we can adopt the budget December 10th, at the December 10th meeting, which allows us to get the millage to the tax bureau so that we don't have to print our own tax bills. We don't have to pay to have the tax bills printed separate from the rest of the county, which is always a good thing. Save money where we can. Are there any other questions on any of the funds? Frank, anything else on McGinnis? I tried to give you all the answers I could tonight. I mean, I'll answer any question you have. That's what a workshop's all about.
She went to each one of them. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? I know you asked at the end, but when you bring these issues up, I'd like to hear from the different council people, because they just sit there, but some say nothing. And I'd like to know where they're coming from, because maybe I voted for them. Maybe I won't vote for them. Thank you, Frank.
Staff reports, comments, and announcements. Anything? Nothing to add. There are council comments. Councilperson Brigard, Councilperson Fisher.
I just want to thank you for putting extra time into it.
A lot of work.
Yes, and I know that she contacted me late Saturday night saying it's done. And I wrote back at like 12:30 night saying, no, it's not done. So, yeah, I can't.
And at 6:30 in the morning, I emailed back and said, crap, I'll fix it now.
I can't imagine doing all this with a full-time job on top of it. So thank you very much.
Councilperson.
Well, I would say the same thing. Thank you for the effort you put into it. That's a lot of work. And just for everybody in the audience and anybody watching, this decision isn't, I know by anybody up here, it's not made in a bubble. I mean, everybody needs to understand, we all live here too. So this 2 mil tax increase, if it goes through, it's going to be on us too. So we'll feel it as much as anybody.
I'm sorry.
No, I did want to say one more thing. November 30th is Small Business Saturday, and we will have this area open. We will have managers, some committees here to answer questions and also to recruit for committees. Our committees are getting a little short, but we're going to recruit for.
And we'll have a budget here for inspection too.
But you can answer all the questions too.
I sure can. Although I don't know, I was asked to maybe help with a craft for the Parks and Rec, so. So, yeah, and Eric touched on it. I wanted to remind everyone, we're coming up on the end of the year. We're in the process of determining who wants to continue serving on committees, the people that are up for reappointment, determining what committees need people. We know we have a few committees that need volunteers. I heard several times tonight saying, oh, we can get volunteers for this and we can get volunteers for that. Come on and volunteer then, because we need people to serve on committees here. Yes, specifically Parks and Rec. The next meeting at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, November 26th, council will hold a regularly scheduled meeting. Could I have a motion to adjourn? I have a motion by Councilperson Geezy, second by Councilperson Kaufman to adjourn at 9:19 p.m. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? We're adjourned.